we get it rolling on the Krug Show Wednesday nights. Hope everybody's having a great week. Welcome to the Krug Show. It's the Home and Home, starring Damon Bruce. Once we're on this show, once we're on his show, once we're on this channel, once we're on his channel. We go back and forth tonight. Obviously, we're here on the Krug channel, the Krug Show, which has just eclipsed 18,000 subs as of last night. Yeah, that is worth a clap for everybody.
Absolutely, man. Congrats. Nobody does it better. You deserve every ounce of those subscribers and the accolades that you're getting. And I always love coming on your channel, Larry, because just let everyone know when you go on Larry's channel, he picks up the tab. So thank you very much, Larry.
There you go. Subscribe to Damon Bruce Plus on YouTube.
Baby.
You see that on the bottom of the screen. Check
Look,
him
man,
out.
we're growing. We're growing in a big part to a big nod to all of your subscribers who have hopped on with me. We're past 5,400 now, which for 2 months ain't bad at all. So we're pretty excited about the way it's growing over here. And you were absolutely right. And I think we saw today a massive sign that you and I have pointed our careers in the right direction. A former parent company of mine, and I know you still do a little fill-in work over at 95.7 The Game, but Odyssey pulled off the New York Stock Exchange today, which, there's
meaning. What is that exactly? What's the meaning on that?
Meaning is essentially
hemorrhaging money.
The largest evaluator of whether your business is, viable or not, just said to the world, this is not a viable business. It's being so poorly run. We won't allow it to be traded in just open and public spaces. It's a multi-billion-dollar media company that is now being traded as a penny stock. They're no longer on the New York Stock Exchange. And there's an element of schadenfreude that is going through me. And joke's on you, F around and find out. There's another part of me that is very worried for friends that I still have at not only that station, but a number of, Odyssey-owned stations throughout the country. I know for a fact that when the going gets tough, there isn't a single corporate executive that has ever taken a pay cut before they fire as many people as humanly possible. So I'm worried for a whole bunch of friends, and it's just another sign, Larry, that if you're not pointing your career into the digital age, you are basically, you're investing in crank engines and buggy whips and things that will soon no longer exist.
It's interesting. It takes me back to college. I went to Sac State, and I was a communications major at Sac State. And when I first went there, I was a broadcast communications major. And what went along with that was all these classes they wanted you to take on broadcasting, but like how to edit, how to do this. And when I took the audio editing course, I mean, they literally were editing with a razor blade,
reel to reel. So
they were literally, and with tape, with actual tape and I used to have a splice board, and you'd literally take the tape, find your edit point, cut the tape, and then put a piece of tape, actual tape, broadcasting tape over it. And that was your edit. And I remember taking this class going, nobody edits like this anymore. And the teacher was like, well, yes, no, that's true. The editing's evolving and this and that. And I'm like, so basically what you're telling me is I'm going to have what amounts to like almost like a trade school education by the time this thing's over. And it's going to be totally useless before I even get out into the workforce. They're like, well, that might be a tad dramatic. I'm like, no, I don't think so. I don't think it is being dramatic. In fact, I think I've pegged it right on. And, I went to the career counselor and I said, what do you think? And they said, what? I think you're right. I think you ought to change your major from communications, speech communications, to general communications. And it will be better for you. It'll be a better, more interesting education, and it'll be more applicable to whatever field you get into after graduation. And I did. So I went from broadcast communications to general communications halfway through my my career, if you will, at Sac State, simply because I could see that what I was going to be getting out of that was going to be totally useless in a very short amount of time. So in a lot of ways, I kind of feel like the radio's relevance is, they're losing relevance as time goes on. And it's unfortunate. It's sad for a lot of people. But at the same time, it's This is the new age, and you have to adapt. You know, the old saying, adapt or die. You either have to adapt or you're going to perish.
Simple. I graduated in 1997, and in 1998, for the first time, the digital shortcut, the digital editor became prolific. So much like you, I mean, Larry, I think you're just a couple years older than me. I'm 48. I think, what are you, 51?
53.
53. Oh, well, gee, you wear it so well. But yeah, so, you had some foresight that I didn't even have, because literally the digital shortcut becomes prolific the day after I graduate. And literally the day I graduated with a broadcasting major, everything that I learned about editing became obsolete instantly. So yeah, I mean, we just saw the entire world change in front of us, and now it's changing to the point where, as you and I have even talked about, look, it's no longer, and you are living proof of this, it's no longer the content distributor economy. It is the content creator economy. You do not need a major platform to have a platform. If you are good and you put your stuff up on YouTube, people will find you. That's how it works now. So it's a whole new world that we're living in, and we're watching not only, like reel-to-reel tape become irrelevant, which was just an evolution for radio. What we're watching become irrelevant now is the medium of radio itself. There is no one in the world who wants to be told specifically when they have to listen or watch their favorite show. For example, Jillian
really
and I,
true.
Yeah, Jillian and I love Succession on HBO.
Mm-hmm.
We love it as much as anyone who watches it live right at 8 o'clock East Coast whenever it comes on HBO, but we don't get around to it until like Tuesday, Wednesday night.
You got two kids under 5, right?
Exactly. So we have to constantly, we watch it when it fits into our life. We can't move our lives around to make it fit in. It's impossible. So it's there when you want it. You start it when you want to, you end it when you want to. And that is now the a la carte world where broadcasting is a fool's errand. You need to be narrow casting and allow your audience to control when the show starts, not the network or the channel. So it's a whole different ball of wax, man. And
it's amazing. It's amazing. I'll tell you what was a real eye opener for me. My late father, and I'm going to try to get through this without crying, because my late father meant everything to me. But he was like an inspiration to me, right? My father was the person who was like, I had a guy who was in my fraternity in college who ran the sleep train, and he started it while we were in college. And, there was a bunch of us worked there, and a bunch of guys, I didn't personally work there, but I was talking, a lot of my buddies and roommates and college friends, they all work for the sleep train. They manage sleep train stores. And eventually he sold out to Mattress Firm for like $400 million. The great him. Dale Carlson. But, one of the things that I was thinking about doing after I graduated from Sac State was, all my buddies were working for the sleep train, and they were making pretty good money at the time. And they were like, hey, why don't you apply and go work for the sleep train? And I'm like, yeah, I'm thinking that might be bad. That might not be bad. And I remember talking to my dad, and my dad was like, I told him, he's like, okay, you're graduating. What do you got planned? And I said, well, I got a guy in my fraternity who started the sleep train, and I might be able to manage one of their stores if I play my cards right and say the right things to the right people. And I go, there's another opportunity where I can work in the Canadian Football League and do personnel, but it won't pay hardly anything, and
but it's your passion.
But it's my passion. And my dad looks at me and he goes, that's nothing. That's easy, kid. You're going to go work in the Canadian League. You're going to go work in the CFL. And I said, Dad, it's, they're barely going to pay anything. I'm going to be working ridiculous hours, like 100-hour weeks and this and that. He's like, hey, look, kid, you can sell mattresses any day. If it doesn't work out with the football team, guess what? Call your buddy in the fraternity and see if he'll let you sell mattresses.
Right.
But you need to go take this scouting position. You need to tell whatever girlfriend you got to, put it on ice and basically just say, I'm devoting my entire life for the next year to this football team, and I'm going to give them everything I got. And you gotta do that. You should, this is where your passion is. You're my son. I love you. I know what you love. This is what you love. Go do it. And it was like, for a moment there, it's like, I was like, you know what am I, fucking stupid? Yeah, I'm going to do that. And so I went that route. And then through that, met a guy who worked with the Raiders, met a guy who worked with the Cardinals. The guy who worked for the Cardinals brought me to Arizona. Then I'm scouting the West Coast. And now I'm making some money. Now and it grew from there. And eventually I found my way into radio, and it's a long story, but I didn't sell out to go sell mattresses at 22, not because I wanted to do it, because it was like, hey, it was gonna be 3 times the money. But my dad's like, no, if you do what you love for a living, you'll never work a day in your life.
Yeah.
Go try what you go do what you love to do, son. And I said, Dad, I'm having a hard time making ends meet. And he's like, I will help you. I'll give you a gas card. I'll help you. I'll help you, during your lean year. You just promise me that you're going to work your fucking ass off, and you're going to pour every bit of energy you have into that thing, and that you'll have no regrets, and that you'll give them everything you got, because, kid, I know if you give them everything you got, you're going to be great.
What was your dad's name?
George.
Here's to George.
Yeah.
Cheers, George. That's fantastic. I love stories like that. I want to be in position to give my sons the identical advice that your dad gave you. If you can make your passion your vocation, you'll be the most successful person you'll ever meet in the world. If you can really take something that you love and turn it into something that you do, that's it. You're Warren Buffett, and you might not make money like Warren Buffett, but you'll never work a day in your life if you really love what you do. My dad was incredibly supportive of me. When I said I wanted to be a broadcaster, he never said, that's nuts, go get a real job. When I was in between coming from a job at ESPN to taking over for you on Sports Phone in 2005, all those years ago, when in between that, I was working at WOWO News Talk 11. It was at 1140 or 1190. Whoa, Fort Wayne, Indiana.
Yeah.
And I'm doing farm reports in the morning. I'm talking about, soybeans are up 3% today. And I mean, like, I couldn't believe what I was doing. And I was watching my friends who were total dipshits in college, who I love dearly, but they're now, they're all working, and they got corner offices, and they're in their late 20s, drifting into their early 30s, and they're making money. And I'm still not at all, because I'm trying to be on the radio. I'm trying to be a broadcaster. And right when I was about to kind of get out of broadcasting, at that stupid station, Whoa, which was actually a great station. It was like the KGO of all of Indiana, coming out of Fort Wayne, Indiana.
Right.
Back when KGO was a great station. But it was a news director, and his name was John Zimney. And he came from KFI in Los Angeles to run this station.
Big boomer station. Yeah.
Yeah. And I went into his office one day, and I just said, John, man, I don't think I can do another soy report. I think it's time for me to get out of radio. I'm a dog chasing my own tail here. I need to go find some success. And he looked at me and he said, well, that would be a big mistake, because you know what you are? You're a broadcaster. And I was just like, wow.
He sees something in me I don't even see in myself. Yeah.
I mean, I was just about to give up, and that was exactly the advice I needed. It was about, hey, man, you could go do a job. You could probably make more money, but that's not who you are. You're doing what you're supposed to do. And I've been around enough people who, have done it to tell that you are one of them. You're not trying to be a broadcaster. You are one right now. And he said, look, I'm going to give you all the shifts I can give you, because you won't be here long. And not even 4 months later, I am moving out to the West Coast to, take over Sports Phone. So it was, it was just incredible little moments like that when they're happening, you might not even notice them, but you look back and you're like, oh my God, that was the fork in the road that led me to where I am. And
yeah, oh no, it's gratifying. It's like, and I think about my father, both my mother and father died in the last 2 years. And I think of how, they so skillfully guided our lives without being heavy-handed about it. It was never like, you're going to do this because I told you to do it. It was like, what do you like to do? What do you want to do? And they would we'd have these conversations. My parents were very much career-oriented people, though my mother never graduated college. it was like her motivation in life to make sure we all did. And she was like the smartest person ever. She knew everything. She could do everything. But it always like bugged her that she didn't have a college degree. And she was like, my children are going to get a college degree. Dusty says Larry comes from money. I really didn't. My grandfather, if I can tell this story briefly, my grandfather fought in World War I, right? He left his dairy farm in Wisconsin to join his father was kind of sadistic about his chores, and he played the violin. His father broke his violin, and he was very upset. He was the oldest of like 13 kids, and he lied about his age, and he joined the army when World War I broke out, and he's fighting on the front lines of World War I. And the war ends. When did World War I end, Damon? 1917, 1918?
Yeah, 1919, 1920. It's
right around there. And at the time, the army said to him, "Hey, you can be discharged in anywhere you want to go." And it was an era where wherever they sent you was kind of where you were going to live for the rest of your life, right? Because people were not mobile. So and of course, I'm sure that he said San Francisco because probably the news traveled so slowly that probably in the late 19 teens, early 1920s, there are probably still people that thought of San Francisco as boomtown because of the gold rush, 1849, right? So he said, let me off in San Francisco. So they discharged him in San Francisco, and he started working for the Muni, or the Muni's competitor at the time, as a cable car operator. My grandfather drove the cable cars, and the cable cars were.
Doesn't sound like he grew up with a Monopoly Man monocle in his eye at all here.
No. He had no money, but he loved the stock market, and he invested in the stock market. But he was whatever age he was, in his 20s. And he's the cable car operator. Well, my grandmother was born to Italian immigrants. She lived in North Beach. She happened to live on the cable car line on Mason, and the cable car would roll by.
And that's how.
And he saw her in the window and would write her love notes and put it in a newspaper, and then show her that he was putting a note in the newspaper and throw it from the cable car as it passed by under her stairs.
Dude, that
she would come down
in 1920. That's how you used to. That was sliding into someone's DMs back then.
right. And that's literally how they met. And my father, they got married in 32. I think my father was born in 37, and they grew up in North Beach. And my father, was just a kid who went to school in North Beach, but he showed aptitude, and he worked for the Salesian Boys Club. I don't know if you know that much about the Salesian Boys Club, but it's a great boys club in North Beach.
Yeah.
And the guys who ran the Salesian Boys Club basically gave him a scholarship to go to USF and to USF Law School. And he took his family from blue collar to white collar, in a generation. And then all of us, my brother went to Cal, my sister went to Davis, both my sisters went to Davis, I went to Sac State, but we all, went to college. And it was the dream of Clarence Krueger, my dad's father, who was a very sweet, kind man, that we, pursue this. So I don't come from money. My father just was the kind of guy that he would give you anything he had. He loved his children, and he would give you absolutely anything he had and my mom was very career oriented. She really cared about, like, if my parents, Damon, when I worked on the radio, imagine if your parents lived in San Francisco. When I would take a day off, my phone would ring 5 minutes after the open of my show when I wasn't there. Where are you? Why aren't you there? When are you going to be on again?
Right.
And my dad would never, he didn't care how sick I was. My mom would be like, are you feeling okay? Are you sure you're feeling okay? My dad would be like, you're going to be there tomorrow? You're going to be there tomorrow, though, right?
Right.
You're going to be there tomorrow. I know you're sick today, and I know but you're going to be there tomorrow, And they were just like really, really serious about work ethic and about
being present, showing up, reporting for duty.
Showing up.
Reporting for duty has been lost on generations. It really has. And, rubbing dirt on the injury and just getting back in there is not valued like it used to be valued. And again, it's funny.
Work ethic is just something that is not valued as much. Now it's like, my parents would if I took one day off, it would be like, you better be back tomorrow.
When my father passed away,
I just saw a picture, by the way. MF says, Damon, nice picture of you and your dad and Marty. I saw that you put that on Twitter. That was a great picture. You looked, I don't think I've seen you look that happy. You were thrilled that night. It was your dad. It was Marty. You're in the KMBR suite.
Yeah.
You're on the scoreboard. I mean, that was a very nice picture.
Very, very special night. I remember it fondly. I shared the picture with Marty before I put it up publicly, and he's like, oh, I talked to your dad. They had both lived in Miami in their youth, so the two of them totally bonded. They hit it off. And it was just a wonderful, wonderful night. It really was in the ballpark. And, it's just, the connections that you make, with your parents just imprint upon you in your life. And my dad was the kind of guy who worked really hard his entire life. And his only true reward was just a lot more hard work the very next day. He worked like a man who should have made a fortune, but he never really made his fortune. It was unfortunate, really. And I know that he never was happy with the status he failed to achieve in his life. And yet in every conceivable or measurable way, he was incredibly successful, and his kids never missed a meal and never spent a night without a roof over their head. And he provided in every way a man needs to provide for a family. But I know deep down inside, he never felt like a true success story. When he did pass away, I went to Florida to be at his bedside, and it happened, and it was like my first feeling was, in order to honor this man, I need to get back to work as fast as possible. He would want me to be on the air quickly. I need to be here to hold my mom's hand for a day or two, make sure she's all right. But then I got to get on an airplane and I got to get home. And that to me is a memory that I'm always going to have, that I knew for a fact that, if there is a heaven and he was looking down, he was very happy that after passing away on a Wednesday, there I was on Monday night doing my show again. I knew that would have made him proud. So, it's funny, man. We could talk about the Giants, the Warriors, the 49ers, and all that stuff.
We'll get to it.
Absolutely matters to us. But this is the stuff that really matters in life. And this is the stuff that, you got to be doing your own thing to really get into. And when you see the way that people, respond to it, you touch people with stories like this.
Well, because
it's relatable.
It's relatable. It's real. I love that you put that picture up on Twitter. Everybody should follow D. Bruce on Twitter just to go see this picture. It's this beautiful picture. It's Damon from a few years ago. It's your dad, who had a great tan, by the way. Had a great tan.
He did have a really good tan at that time.
Marty. And you guys all, I could picture it, and I know, and just knowing how you are about your family, knowing how, it's not every day that we get to
play, but
there it is. There it is. That is just a phenomenal picture, man. Look how happy you are, man.
Not a fleck of gray in that beard, by the way. Look at that. Look at young Damon. But that was from 2012, and it was just from, a few days ago. Same day, and that's why it came across my memory timeline. But me, Marty, and Ronnie in the middle, having a grand old time. And it was Marty who got us on the scoreboard that night. I didn't even think to do it, but Marty did that, and he knew. He was like, hey, come on, let's go sit in the front row this inning. We had been in the back. We were having beers or nachos, whatever. And Marty he's like, come on, let's get down to the front row. And Marty had set that whole thing up. So
very cool. Marty's class act, man. Drew says, love D. Bruce and Larry together. # new media. I get one more George Krueger story that it makes me laugh. So, and it makes me sad, but it makes me laugh too. It happened sometimes things happen in weird things. My dad happened to be in the hospital in San Francisco, and I went to visit him, and, he was not doing well, and he showed up. He had all these tubes in him and everything. He looked really terrible. But he got the tubes taken out, while I was there. And he's like, can I get some water? Can I get some water? Because it's obviously he's had tubes down his throat. And he gets the water. He grabs the nurse by the forearm, and he goes, "This is my son, Larry Krueger. You've probably heard him on the radio. He's barely can talk. He's
Right.
like, he's on KNBR, and his show is really good." It's like, Dad, please stop.
Just proud of you. Just
Yeah,
your
so
number
proud.
one agent, just always working for you.
Yeah, and I'm like tearing up because I'm like, oh my God, my dad's like, seriously ill, and he's telling this woman that he can barely talk, and he's telling her, "Oh, you gotta, my son," and so I'm teared up, and then she's like, oh, and so she goes, I'm gonna bring my one of my friends in. She's a big baseball fan. One of our other nurses here. And my dad's like, that's great. So they disappear. They come back like 2 minutes later. And now my dad is born in 37. I'm born in 70. Okay. So, whatever. That's quite a bit of difference.
Yeah.
The nurse comes in the room and she's like, oh, yes. And the other nurse goes, oh, yes. And this is George Krueger. And this is, his son, Larry. And she doesn't hear him say that. She doesn't hear the nurse say that. And she looks at my dad and she looks at me and she goes, to this day, I was like, to this day, it ticks me off. She's like, is this your brother? I'm like, Jesus, do I need to take a nap? I mean, the guy's he's born in 37. I'm born in 70. He's looking like he has never looked worse. Now you're looking at him. You're looking at me. You're asking me if we're brothers. I was just good. Like,
it could have been worse. She could have leaned over.
I was so freaking pissed.
She could have leaned over and whispered in your ear and said, I hate your fucking show.
I hate your show. I wish Ralph and Tom would just go all night and you would never come on.
Oh, that's
all right. We got this one. From John. How about this one? Put your glasses back on for this one.
All right.
John Mernon. My Mount Rushmore of Bay Area sports media. Krug, D. Bruce, Radnich, and Ralph. Well, that right there is worth a freaking clap right there.
Yeah. Thank you.
I mean, seriously,
much.
I know that means something to me, and I know that means something to you.
Yeah.
Because both of us cared about that. We cared about our legacy in the Bay and our legacy with the fans. And I don't care if most people here, looking at John's thing go, oh, come on. Where's Tommy or where's Murph or where's Pete Franklin or where's whomever? Just the fact that John says it should be me and you and G-Rad and Ralph. That made my night right there.
That's one very nice. I mean, and obviously I'm biased, but I think he nailed it. I mean, if I wouldn't be so arrogant to include myself on the list, but I think he got the other three right for sure. Absolutely. So, and we all know that I'm arrogant enough to include myself on the list.
You wanted to be on that list.
Totally honest.
MF says radio's not the same without Damon.
Well, thank you. And here's the thing. It doesn't need to be the same. It shouldn't be the same. It's obviously, it won't be the same, but you can come get the exact same show now whenever you want it. We do it live every day at 11. You can find that podcast. You can go ahead and check me out with Larry whenever I'm here. You subscribe to Damon Bruce Plus, and it's the same show you always wanted, unbridled, whenever you need it now. So don't people who say, Damon, I miss you. There's no reason to. You're not missing anything.
Don't miss me. Join me. Don't miss me. Join me. John Mernon says Ralph would unload on Kapler. Oh, yeah, he would.
First of all, Tommy, the guy's he's a weirdo. Okay, he's a weirdo. How much time you spend on your beard? If you spend more time on your beard or your lineups? Seriously, I mean, come on, Alex Wood, 4 2/3. Leave him in. Come on, Cap. Come on.
What was that short hook today for? What I mean, I know he was working and laboring a little here. I got the box score up. First of all, Manai is in the pen. He's just a disaster right now.
No, he's a gas can.
Dude, Ross Stripling is not much better.
Yeah, seriously. Arsonist.
Yeah, and those two guys were, two big off-season moves for Farhan that he was supposed to get right, and he did not get those right. I mean, it's just they are the amount of average that just wafts off the San Francisco Giants. They are an average baseball team. And here's the thing. They're good enough to sweep the Phillies. Watch them lay down and die over the weekend against the Marlins, because it's just that's how bad teams or average teams operate. They'll look really good one day and lay down and die the next. So, what do they got? They basically have I'll tell you what, Larry. I mean, rare is the Giant prospect who comes up and looks good over the first week or two. You know, what they got going on with Casey Schmidt is it looks pretty legit to me, man. Like,
he is legit.
I don't want to, you know, because here's the thing. I mean, Christian Arroyos and the Nate Shearholzes and the, endless lists of this guy's supposed to be the next thing. None of them showed up and had the first 10 days in the big leagues that this guy has had. And this guy's 10 days in the big leagues are not going to be defining him this year. Or Larry, he could be the rookie of the year. I mean, he really could be. Like, that's what we're kind of looking at here. So
he's a tremendous player. He's got great feet. I mean, how many guys can be
soft
called
hands
up
and a big arm?
Right. And how many guys can, oh yeah, they're great third basemen. Oh yeah, but they're also very good at shortstop. What? That hardly ever happens. Hardly ever happens.
Versatility, man. First of all, you can't be a San Francisco Giant without an element of it. I don't even think they would be interested in drafting, playing, or developing you without having an element of versatility, because you got to play somewhere else every other day. You just can't march out the same 9 guys. It's just against the rules of Farhan and how he goes about operating. So it's great that he's versatile. He can play, anywhere in that infield. I haven't seen him at first base, but I bet you he could. I mean, I've seen him at second. I've seen him at short and at third. And look, I like J.D. Davis at third too. I mean, I think he's a pretty good third baseman.
He's playing great. He's got a howitzer for an arm. He's swinging it.
Yeah, but man, I'm very impressed with Casey Schmidt, and I hope he keeps it going, because there aren't a lot of reasons to lean in and watch the Giants, and there haven't really been for years. I mean, even in the 107 win season, there wasn't a truly lean in to watch that guy. It was just a collective, everyone playing out their tits all at the same time. But he's really interesting, man. And I love that he got a single-digit number. I always feel like when a franchise as old as the Giants gives a rookie a single-digit number, like they really believe in that kid, right?
Totally. And not only that, it seems like when you break through with a memorable breakthrough, you're also special. Will Clark against Nolan Ryan, Shearholtz went deep in his second at bat. Willie McAfee 4 for 5 against Robin Roberts, a great Phillies pitcher back in the late 50s. I mean, it seems like the truly greats oftentimes have memorable debuts. Jeff Farley says the KNBR 49er postgame show has never been the same since you guys stopped doing it together.
See, that is the one thing I will say we absolutely were the best ever at. The pre and post game show that you and I would do from Candlestick, I think, is some of the great radio that has ever been on KNBR, because we would properly historically frame the good times, and we would absolutely point at and explain why the bad times were happening as well. I mean, I just thought it was
good stuff, man.
It was really good stuff. It was honest. We had a lot to work with, because there were some bad teams, but some great players. And I thought we did a good job framing all of it. I really did. Those are fun days. And then, of course, the Chowder House broadcast left us very well fed.
Oh, my God. We had such a good time at the Sam's Chowder House. Glass Half Full guy says, not sure this can happen, but I'd love a Larry, Damon, and Gary show just one time. I don't know if that can happen either, but that would be incredible. Digital Drew says, hey, Larry, huge announcement coming tomorrow at 6 a.m. Pacific from Nether Realm Studios. Going to be an incredible day. # Mortal Kombat.
Okay. So,
all right, I'm looking for that.
There was a huge bit of video game news today, Larry, that
I didn't see that.
Completely caught my attention. They are going to be reissuing the defunct for many years NCAA football game. EA has announced that it's going to roll out NCAA football 2024 next summer. And what allows them to now do this is the name, image, and likeness, and players will be paid to have their name, and the higher profile players, I'm sure, will have their faces scanned in, and it will really be them. And people are like, well, does everyone get the same amount of money? No, I'm sure that doesn't happen. There's no way that Indiana's punter is going to make the same money as USC's starting quarterback to appear in a video game. So I'm sure there is going to be a pecking order. There always is in sports. There's always a big man on campus, no pun intended, since we're talking about college football here. But the fact everyone's going to get something instead of nothing is the vehicle that allows this to this once great game to
Oh.
come back. And look, I'm a 48-year-old man who will smoke a joint and play a college football video game for 5 hours in a row. So I'm excited.
You're the voice of NBA. What year?
I was many years ago.
Yeah, what year was that?
I was, I think, 10, 11, 12, 13. I mean, I did a few of them in a row for NBA 2K. I was the voice of the. Oh, here, dude, by the way, this is a fictional minor league baseball team that was in the bigs.
What's it called?
The San Guerrero Pollos.
Oh, nice.
And it was a fictional minor league baseball team that you played on while you were building your character before you got promoted to the bigs. So it was those are good days, man.
Oh man, once you're on a video game, I mean, that's kind of like
what was amazing, Larry. And this was like, I don't want to say it was the dawn of the internet, but it was the dawn of me using the internet and getting emails from places. And I would get emails typed in Japanese or Korean. And the only thing that made me realize at all what I was looking at was it would include my name in the middle of all this, of all these Korean letters and figures. And then it would say NBA 2K. And I was like, oh, okay, I know where this is coming from now. And I'm going to have to write back, be like, hey, I don't speak a lick of Korean and I don't know how to use Google Translate because I'm an idiot on the internet. But thank you for watching. I was in living rooms all over the globe.
It's awesome.
Thanks to that video game.
It really was something else. It was incredible. Yeah, the video game thing is incredible. Brian Iglesias says, hey, guys, Damon, it's great to see you thriving with your YouTube channel. Can we rename McAfee Cove Schmitz Creek?
Not bad. Not bad. I think we're going to let Willie keep it. But
we're going to let Willie keep it. Jeffrey Bond says, thank you, Damon, for your unbelievable tirade on John Fisher. That was epic and very appreciated.
Well, it was very deserved. He earned every inch of it.
Nick J says, here's why D. Bruce is a legend. He's not a Bay Area native, has no skin in the game for local teams, but he can talk about them like he's been a Bay Area lifer.
Well, I mean, I took my job seriously, right?
Seriously,
and by the way, look, I got to tell you, I'm such a basketball junkie that I can't even pretend that I didn't fall deeply in love with the Golden State Warriors as they were playing. And I had a lot of respect for the San Francisco Giants as an organization before I came out to even cover them. In 1989, what the Giants did to my Chicago Cubs, made me hate the Giants in the moment, but I couldn't respect that team. And I loved Will Clark, loved him. And I loved, there were a lot of great, and of course there was Barry Bonds and I like Jeff
Willie
Kent,
McGee,
and I got to tell you, I feel the same way about the Oakland A's. I said to myself, because of 89, I don't think I can ever root for the Giants. So when I did come out to the Bay Area to start working at KNBR, I adopted the Oakland A's as this is my, where I live now, hometown team. And they, we're in the throes of, the big three and Jason Isringhausen and Jason Giambi and Miguel Tejada. Like, they had great teams and they always won at home. And you could go to the Coliseum for $1 or $2 on a Wednesday and get $1 hot dog. And it was just, I was broke. I was working in radio and I would take BART because I didn't have a car. And I loved going to A's games because they were phenomenal. And then to see what they have become intentionally. So an owner who's achieved no amount of individual success in his life, everything that John Fisher says I've been successful at was handed to him by his father. And he is now, and this is what pisses me off the most, Larry, in order to keep the A's viable and in the Bay Area, it wasn't enough to build a ballpark. He had to build Abu Dhabi around the ballpark too. He needed a $12 billion construction project for it to be feasible and doable. Now he's ready to move to Vegas and fuck all the construction around the stadium. I'm just there to build a stadium. Like, what a liar this guy's been the entire time. The entire Howard Terminal thing was a poison pill planted by John. I don't believe there was a shred of intent of that ever happening beyond it being a stall tactic and a jumping off point to say, I got to go somewhere else now. I mean,
they've been mentally gone for a decade.
Yeah.
They really have been. Digital Drew says that was one of the best sports games of all time. It's coming back. If it's coming back, it's going to be massive.
Oh, it will be. It
Glass
will be.
half full,
they could
guys.
change they could charge $99 for the next college video game, and it will sell like hotcakes.
Oh yeah, I mean it's absolutely huge. Is Glass half full guy says, is Kyle Harrison close to a call up? Seems like they could use the pitching help. I don't know, but it would be great to see. We got this one from Nick J. Says, now former KMBR intern, MIB, which is Medium Impact Brian, aka Medium Impact Brian, works for 2K. Yeah, he's working for 2K.
So Medium Impact Brian came after my time at KNBR. I never knew a Medium Impact Brian.
He's a good guy, good kid.
Yeah, my Brian, when I was
name.
at KNBR, was Brian Primetime Smith, the original Medium Impact Brian.
Right. We got this one. Eric L says, Larry, check out what Shams just tweeted. Very interesting. Go check that out.
Let me look.
Interested. Probably Warrior related, I would imagine.
Well, let's see. Shams. Hold on.
Better be good.
All right. Shams has just tweeted, Warriors and president of basketball operations Bob Myers have no substantial contract extension talks in months, and the sides are bracing for the likelihood that Myers could walk away from the franchise. And this is what I've been saying for a very, very long time. And I'm going to tell you, Larry, and I'm not saying that lunch with me is any indicator that things are about to happen. But when this season was underway, Bob and I were supposed to go to lunch 2 or 3 times. And for whatever reason, one day I had to cancel because the kids were homesick and I had to stay home. Another time he had to cancel. And then, when I was let go at 95.7 The Game, Bob was one of the first people to reach out to me and say, what tough break, man. That really, really sucks. I can't believe they did that. Let's go to lunch as soon as the season is over. And the season is over. And I texted Bob. I'm like, hey man, you still want to get together for lunch? And he's like, Damon, I'm really busy right now. Let's do this in a couple of weeks. So, I'm not saying that lunch with me or not having lunch with me is an indicator that something's about to happen with Bob, but he keeps on kicking this thing down the road because he knows I want to talk to him about what his future's holding. And I have said that he is smart enough, not that the Warriors are a sinking ship, but he's smart enough to be the first guy out of Dodge because, there's an element of, yes, he was compensated very well, but the fan base, doesn't exactly appreciate him the way it should. And I think he knows that he now has unlimited options. And I've heard every single conceivable what Bob is about to do next attached to Bob, including he already has a handshake deal to go and be the president of the Los Angeles Clippers with Ballmer. And that's a little bit why
Jerry West, right? Isn't Jerry down there?
And there's a little bit of an element there why the cooled down relationship between Joe Lacob and Bob Myers is happening because Joe has heard that. So I'm not reporting that. I'm saying I've heard that. I've also heard that Bob Myers is about to leave to run a branch of Amazon Sports. I've heard that Bob Myers is about to leave because he enjoyed his time with Omaha Productions when he did that podcast for them. And Peyton Manning and his Omaha investors were so blown away by Bob Myers, they basically offered him, a massive stake in Omaha Productions and that he can go run that and become an entertainment mogul. I've heard that Bob Myers is about to go start a sports agency. I've heard that Bob Myers is about to go run the entire sports division for like CAA, established agency. Look at it this way. Whatever you want to attach to Bob's name is an opportunity that could be waiting for him next. It's probably true because he would excel in all of those roles. The one role that probably is no longer built for him to excel in is the president of the Golden State Warriors. And the only reason to stick around now would be you have been handed, either an equity stake or, just a bag of cash that was so full of Scrooge McDuck gold coins that you couldn't even lift it. And he's already being incredibly well compensated. But do you now want to turn him into the highest paid general manager in the history of all professional sports when he essentially can't even make a move because of the prohibitive nature of the current CBA? I mean, if they really do retain Draymond, Steph, Clay, and Andrew Wiggins. They have nothing but league minimums to surround them with. They cannot even qualify for a mid-level exception if Dante DiVincenzo leaves. They can't even qualify for that. So building a winner around those four guys is going to get more, not less difficult in the coming year. So,
well, not only that, they've changed all the rules around where you can't pay over a certain amount of money. You can't buy second-round picks. All the different little loopholes that the Warriors had found ways to buy an advantage. There's no way to buy an advantage. And I also just think that Bob's reading the handwriting on the wall. Joe doesn't want to own. Joe wants to own and run. And Joe,
I wonder how much I don't mean to cut you off, Larry, but I wonder how much Kirk has influenced him on the Wiseman pick, on the Kuminga pick, on the other elements that did not work out, Alan Smilagic and a number of other Warriors throughout
Jacob Evans.
Yeah. And I really
Bell,
wonder how
Patrick
much
McCaw.
I really wonder how much of that was what Bob wanted to do or what Bob felt he had to do because it was a little bit of an owner's mandate. Does he really feel like he has autonomy to do it his way any longer? And even if he does go out and pick the groceries, he's got a coach who refuses to cook with him.
He even said it this year. He even said it. I could go get, some people are like, hey, why don't you get a big man at the trade deadline? He's like, I could get a great big man, but it doesn't mean if the coaches aren't going to play him, it's what good does it do? I mean, that was the first sign. Now, Kerr has said everything's hunky-dory between him and Bob and they're lifelong friends and this and that. But, I mean, that was a very direct comment a very revealing comment by Myers that reveals a disconnect between the front office and the coaching staff.
And I really do believe look, I'm not going to tell you that Bob and I are super duper close or friends or anything like that. The next time he's over for dinner will be the first. But Bob and I have had what I call a very close homotextual relationship. We have texted each other quite a bit, and we've texted each other about personal stuff. Like he'd be at the Big Ten tournament, and he'd be like, your Hoosiers are looking good today, or your Hoosiers are looking bad today, Damon. Like he and I have been very friendly for a number of years. And I will say that as much as I've gotten to know Bob Myers off the record, I can tell you right now, and, there's an element of this where Shams ends that tweet saying it sounds like it's more than money. Bob Myers is not motivated purely by the biggest bag of money. He is going to look for the right opportunity. He's going to, like you and I were talking about at the very beginning of this show, Larry, he's the kind of guy who understands that if you are enjoying what you're doing and you're happy with your vocation, you will be as successful as possible. And when he has unlimited options to be as happy as he wants in whatever direction he can take his career, do the Warriors present A, the biggest bag of money, which I don't believe his priority is, or B, the greatest chance to be as successful and happy as possible, which, let's be honest, they're on the other side of that hill now. At the very, very, very most optimistic, everyone would have to agree this is the beginning of the end of this Warriors run, if not somewhere in the middle of the end of the Warriors run. So Bob Myers is smart enough to listen to that Bill Walsh advice. It's better to walk away a year too early than a year too late. And I think he knows that. So I would not be surprised at all to say that the dynasty really does. Because look, if Bob Myers does leave, that's it for the dynasty. I mean, he's a major part of the dynasty. So,
that was my next question. I mean, first of all, let me read Lorenzo. He says, you guys are the reason why I listen to Bay Area Sports Talk Radio and Gary Radnich since 2009. Thank you to you both. Seriously,
thank you, Lorenzo.
Larry's voice.
Thank you. You should give me $2.50 of that, Larry.
Exactly. Okay. So if this is fact, I think Myers is leaving because he knows Joe wants his kids in there and he's reading the room. The question is, not is Myers leaving. I think it's pretty clear that Myers was going to be leaving for a while. Why? Because he's a native son. He's from here. He grew up rooting for the Warriors. They knew he was in a contract year. If they were going to sign him, they would have signed him by now. Joe, I think Joe wants to get his kid in there. I think Myers knows it. I think it's a colossal fucking mistake.
By the way, it's a real mistake. It's a mistake of Kirk Lacob. Kirk Lacob should not be groomed to be the team's next general manager. Kirk Lacob should be groomed to be the team's next owner
or president. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, what are you doing, man? That's, it's, I understand
these guys are they have had a taste of it. Bob was gracious enough to allow them in. He could have said, get the hell out of here. But instead he's allowed Joe, his opinions, and they haven't been rude to Joe or Kirk or any of their guys, and basically just said, hey, we'll listen to you. And they've taken that as, hey, we can do this too. But you know what it's going to be? It's going to be one good move, one bad move, one good move, one bad move. Because people who don't know personnel, that's how it works. They hit, they miss, they hit, they miss, they hit, they miss. And in reality, if you're going to build a dynasty and you're going to build a team, you got to hit and then hit and then hit and then hit. And you got to put a series of good decisions together. And only the best personnel evaluators have that track record and have that ability. And I don't believe Kirk Lacob has it. So we shall see. But I really think Kirk they'll be like, oh, you know what? We have Larry Hare. They'll make somebody else maybe the de facto GM, but we'll all know that Kirk will be the guy who has the biggest influence with Pops.
I
think Larry Harris could be the GM, but Kirk will have the final say. That'd be my guess.
Maybe. I've always thought that Joe Lacob had earned the right to be an influential owner, but I hope that he wouldn't drift into the realm of meddlesome owner.
He's Jerry Jones. He's Jerry Jones in the NBA.
But he's Jerry Jones with a lot more trophies and pelts on the wall. That's for sure.
But they're both self-made billionaires who are going to promote their children over qualified executives.
Well, let that happen before you accuse him of it.
Yeah, no, but that's my read on it. That's my read.
Look at it this way. What if Bob Myers really does exits and boom, it's Masai Ujiri?
I'll be shocked. I think it's going to be,
but
I think it's going to be Kirk.
I would say that the Warriors have been well run long enough that I'm not going to accuse them of being poorly run until we actually see it. I'm going to give this team the benefit of the doubt to get it right, like I was, through that Kings series, like I was up until Game 6 of that Lakers series, when I just felt like, all right, the Lakers are going to get this done tonight. I did call that, by the way. But let's see what happens before we start accusing anyone of anything. I really hope that it is not a Lacob and Lacob situation running the Golden State Warriors. I mean, Mike Dunleavy being promoted from assistant general manager to GM feels like it would be is more realistic of a thing to happen than it just go right from Bob is out, Kirk is in. Because I think Joe is smart enough to understand that he is setting up his son for absolute failure. You never want to be the man who follows the man. You want to be the man who followed the man who follows the man. You don't want to be the guy who replaces Bob Knight. You want to be the guy who replaces, the guy who replaced Bob Knight.
Pat Knight. Yeah, you want to be the guy who replaces Bob Knight's son. All right. If this is indeed true and Myers is going to depart, is the dynasty over?
Well, yeah. How about this? It's going to take the question of can Steph Curry win another championship is not a resounding no, it will never happen. But I do believe by the next time the Warriors are able to compete for that next championship for real, it will be different enough to where it's going to feel like its own thing, unrelated to the 4 previous championships that Steph Curry has won. I'm not saying that their chance to win is over, but the dynasty as we know it has been built. Yeah, I do think that would be over at that point. Yeah, so it wouldn't be the end of their opportunity to have success, but it would be the end of the way this past success was built. So it would feel, I think, different.
Brian 95.7 Brian says Mike Dunleavy Jr. seems like the right person to take over for Bob if he leaves. What makes the Warriors such a smart franchise within the Lacob era is they ultimately make decisions as a group. I just totally disagree. First of all,
well, I wonder how much more control Steve Kerr will have of the actual roster.
But what do any of us, Brian, yourself, what does anybody know about Mike Dunleavy Jr.? Really, other than he's a pleasant guy.
He was overdrafted.
He was overdrafted. But I mean, why?
Yeah. He wasn't half as bad as everyone said. He wasn't half as good as anyone said.
That's the kind of opinion, and I don't want to rip you, Brian, because I like you, but that's the kind of opinion that you make when you just are kind of hoping. Maybe you have a media gig that's somehow surrounded the Warriors and you're just hoping for no stank eye, and maybe good things will just continue to happen. And maybe you'll just be able to close your eyes and everything will just stay, hunky dory behind the scenes, and Dunleavy will just slide into Myers' thing and nobody will miss a beat. It's like, there's nothing that we can point to at all. There's no track record of success of Mike Dunleavy as an executive that we can point to, other than hope. All you have is hope on that.
Well, and look, when it comes to, pardon me, I got to cough again here real quick. I'm going to mute my. But when, someone, Digital Drew, I'm reading some comments here, and I'm, it says, the dynasty is over when Curry retires. Myers is important, but he's not critical. He is replaceable. I guess I understand what you're saying. It's always easier to replace a suit than it is a jersey, theoretically. But this suit is so important, and he is so connected to Steve. The departure of Bob Myers might lead to a faster than expected departure. Like, let's say Bob Myers announces tomorrow, I'm out. I'm taking the X job somewhere else. So does
Draymond suddenly want out?
That is my very first point. Does Draymond re-up for one more year, or would he consider then opting out and opting back in, or opting out and going somewhere else? So Draymond is the first domino to fall just from a chronological standpoint. The second thing would be then who makes the call on what to do with Jordan Poole or what to do with Jonathan Kuminga. And then it has to maybe do with, well, does Steve Kerr now really want to go ahead and ride this all the way to the end of Curry's career? And it might resonate so poorly with Steph Curry that 2 years from now, he looks around and he's at the end of this deal, or whatever the end of this deal is, and he says, you know what? I have taken the Golden State Warriors as far as I can. It's not what it used to be. Draymond's not here. Bob's not here. Steve and I have talked about leaving. And you know what? I am going to end my career in Charlotte after all. That's not out of the question. So you can say that Bob Myers is just an easy, replaceable guy, or, he's easy. Myers' fingerprints are over every element of this franchise's success. Every conceivable element. He is more involved than most GMs ever have been on an NBA level to a team's success. He is a caretaker. He is a psychologist. He's an armchair psychologist. He's the school psychologist. He is the nurse who has put relationships back together again. Bob is integral to this being a team that has had, an almost, look at it this way. This was the first year ever the Warriors didn't have their chemistry, and man, could you feel it. So I think he's a very, very important piece of the puzzle.
I just think that Jerry West had the clout to tell Joe, this is what I think, and I don't care what you think. This is what I think. And I think Bob, to some degree, has a lot more tact, but he also has a resume where he could say, this is what I think. I don't care what you think. This is what I think. Everybody else, Mike Dunleavy, Larry Harris, these guys are so beholden to the franchise for their employment that it's going to become like Al Davis. A buddy of mine who used to work for the Raiders said a guy stood up and in a war, in the Raider war room one day, and Al Davis said, hey, you, what do you think? What do you want here? And the guy was so scared shitless about losing his job that he looked at Al and he said, Al, I want what you want.
Oh,
and then everybody was like, rolled their eyes, and then Al made the pick. I get the sense that that's probably what's goes on with the Warriors. I mean, think about it. The Warriors, on the day that they could have drafted a guard, lost a guard in Klay Thompson and still drafted a center. Well, why is that? It's probably because Joe wanted the center. The Warriors traded James Wiseman for Gary Payton. They traded a 22-year-old big man for a 30-year-old broken down two guard who can't play offense and only plays defense. And then they found out that Payton was hurt and was going to miss time. Oh, wait a second. Did they jump out of the trade? No, they stayed with the trade. Why? Because the real motivation for the trade was saving Bob. It wasn't about Steph Curry. It was about saving Joe $37 million. And that's what Joe wanted. And everybody knew it. So it's just a matter of now if you got Dunleavy in there, Dunleavy's not going to be independent. He's going to be a guy who knows the score. He's got the job because he knows the score. And the score is that Joe makes the final call and Kirk has, a lot of say, and you're there as the kind of public face to allow them to do what they want to do because they don't have the credentials to do it without you. So
here's the thing. I agree.
That's the way it's going down. I think I'd be shocked if it goes down any other way.
I agree with all of your philosophies, but I will say this, going back in time, I don't believe that James Wiseman was selected for any other reason than they really did think he was the juiciest prospect apple dangling on the tree. I did at the time. I'm not going to remove the way everybody felt from the timeline when it happened. When the Timberwolves selected Anthony Edwards, number 1 overall, it felt like the Warriors had won the lottery twice. To me, I was like, oh my God, they're going to get James Wiseman. And, Lonzo Ball might be the small ball kind of guy, would be good around here, but you got LaMelo, Steph Curry, you got Klay Thompson. I'm going to take James Wiseman in that moment too. I don't think that was Joe Lacob said to take James Wiseman. I think Bob Myers ran to the fucking podium with that.
Yeah, but who traded James Wiseman?
Well,
you don't think that was about the 37 mil?
I think it was about the 37. Well, I think, yeah, of course it was about the $37 million. I also think that they realized that they could then flip those assets for Gary Payton, and Gary Payton was a trusted agent in the way that James Wiseman never became a trusted agent. So was it a cost-cutting move? Yes, but it was a cost-cutting move that was made with more than just cost-cutting in mind. So I'm going to kind of give them a mulligan on that. I really am. It's a massive mulligan to give. They screwed up the second pick of the draft, which was a godsend in the middle of their success story.
They might as well have had a Len Bias die situation because it's had the exact same impact. It's literally the exact same impact because they got zero.
No, they won a title with the guy on the roster. No.
Well, okay. I guess. Even though he didn't play a minute.
He did.
I don't know. We'll see. I'm very skeptical about the future of the Warriors. This is what happens. Suddenly it's like kind of like the We Believe Warriors when Robert Rowell all of a sudden they had a little success and suddenly he like, hey, I want to be the GM. And then Stack Jack played him for a fool. And that was the end of Robert Rowell. Right. He signed Stack Jack to a big deal. And then Stack Jack, as soon as the ink was dry, said, I want to be traded.
And then they brought in Chris Mullin, who, let's be honest, I love Chris. Chris, has forgotten more about basketball than guys like you and me will ever know. But he was brought in to be the subservient yes man, yes boss GM that would do what the owner said.
And he made some good moves and he made some bad moves and he hired a good basketball coach in Mike Montgomery. But then, it's about talent. It's about talent. So I think Draymond leaves. I think Jordan Poole gets dealt. I think Kerr comes back. I wouldn't be surprised at all if Kerr became the general manager and they brought in a different coach. What do you think of that?
That sounds actually like almost a better option than what other options could present. But I do think that Kerr loves being on that court and in that locker room. And I just think that Kerr would be a coach with more power. That's what I think. He would be a coach who didn't have final roster say, but had greater roster influence than he would have ever imagined him having, because I think he's already tried that GM job on for size and in Phoenix and he didn't like the way it fit. And he knows that he is, Kerr is still a player in his heart. He is. And he's a killer. And he wants to be part of the kill. And you don't feel like you're a part of the kill unless you're in that locker room. So I think that Kerr's competitive nature will will have him remain as the coach of the Warriors. But
how about the Barry brothers? Brent is the GM, John is the coach.
Why? Because Rick was a Hall of Famer? That makes no sense at all. No.
Well, no, because I think those guys are highly thought of. I mean, they're definitely highly thought of, and they're tied. They get both. You know, I mean, John's got ties to the organization. Obviously, they both have ties to Rick. Brent has been considered one of maybe the future GM in San Antonio.
I mean, let's go ahead and bring in Scooter Barry and let's just fucking party.
James Foster says if they trade Poole, they have enough shooting. I mean, first of all, I do think they're going to try to move Poole. I wonder if that's the smart move, but I'm just tired of Poole. I hate watching Poole. I hate watching people who just their issues with things start to show themselves. I mean, Jordan Poole is best going to the bucket, going to the foul line, but he doesn't like contact. So then that kills his desire to go to the bucket. And then suddenly he watches Steph take these ridiculous heat check threes. And so he's like, you know what? Now it's my turn to take heat check threes, except he's shitty at shooting heat check threes. And so now you don't have either. You don't have the guy who's good at good at making foul shots because he doesn't ever get to the line. And now you've got a 30% foul three-point shooter who thinks he's Steph Curry shooting from 27 feet. I don't like Jordan Poole. I don't care how hard he works. I don't like his pouting. I don't like his softness. I don't like his matador defense. I don't like him. I really don't. I
like him more than you do. I like him a little bit more than you do. Defensively, he's a disaster, and if he's not knocking down shots, he's not contributing. But Jordan Poole, again, I want to just make sure I got this totally right. The amount of money that he's paid right now does feel like it's an overpay at this point in time. But this is let me bring this up right here. Jordan Poole played every single game. So for a guy who you're saying is soft, he played 95 games this year, playoffs included. And he'll be 24 by the time next year rolls around, which means he's still a baby in his career. And as frustrating as he can be, this motherfucker got 20 a game, Larry. 20 a game. He averaged 20 points a game this year. In his worst year ever, he got you 20 a game in and out of the lineup. Not
the guy that he was guarding got 28.
Maybe, but dude, look at it this way. If 20 points a game were easy thing to average in the NBA, there'd be a lot of dudes averaging 20 a game.
Okay, but Damon, let me jump in real quick and just say and remind everybody, for those who didn't watch Warrior basketball, that Jordan Poole's greatest stretch as a Warrior comes when he's on the floor without Steph Curry. He doesn't play well with your best player. In fact, he only plays really well when your best player ain't there. So I don't want anybody on the team anymore who doesn't play with him.
No, you got to have someone on the court. So the point was, if you trade Jordan Poole, do you have any shooting? No, because Klay Thompson.
Trade him for a shooter and draft more shooting. Find more shooting. Jordan Poole is not a great 3-point shooter, and he's a great foul shooter, but he's afraid to go to the line. So he's kind of what's he? You've seen Office Space. What would you say you do here? What does he do? He doesn't defend. He doesn't shoot threes.
24-year-old getting 20 in the game, and he doesn't shoot threes. Look, man, he
was a total zero in the playoffs.
He was bad in the playoffs this year. There's no doubt. But it was I don't think
everybody hates him.
I don't think that they're going
including
to
the
run out.
refs.
I don't think that they're going to run out and trade a homegrown 24-year-old who is getting 20 a night. I just don't think I don't think it's on the top of their list of things to do. I really don't. I'd be surprised. Now, let's see what happens. Let's see what happens by the trade deadline, how his year starts. But I just don't think that he is this completely give up on that guy. There's no there in Jordan Poole. I think he's a little bit better than that. I really do. There are two guys on this team
soft
who played every game this year, man. So Charmin Soft fucking strapped it on every game of the year. So, we can't have two we can't be operating in a world of two different facts. Soft players don't play 82 games. If he's soft, what the fuck is Steph Curry? What the fuck is everyone who rests
Steph
and takes
Curry's
load
35.
I know, but still, this guy,
I can't stand this guy. I can't stand. Nobody else can either. And he takes terrible
I
shots.
can stand him. I can stand him.
Okay.
I don't think I think it was a terrible year. And not Clay, but Draymond. Dude, Draymond is already on Stephen A. Smith's show saying like, yeah, man, I hit the guy and it fucked him up all year. And I think it's true.
I know.
I do. I think it's true. And
Draymond thought they'd still be playing if they hadn't hit him.
Well, he might be right about that. I mean, first of all, Draymond is fascinating. It's hard to tell a fascinating person. It's time to stop talking. But he does need to share less, keep your own counsel just a little bit. Draymond Green is going to flap his gums to the point where we know absolutely everything that went wrong with the Warriors, and that's going to put him on the outs with Steve Kerr. Like, if you think that people are having trust issues with your now Draymond, keep fucking talking. You're going to talk yourself right off this goddamn roster.
Yeah, but he's awesome. I mean, come on. Draymond Green can talk.
He was awesome until he was playing his buddy LeBron, until he was playing his buddy AD, and he didn't do shit in the Lakers series, dude.
I know, but he still plays with more guts than most of that team. He is the heartbeat of that team. They lose him, they don't win. They don't win. Look, they're not going to win anyway, but they're really not going to win if they don't have him. But that's why I see it. I don't think they're winning anyway.
I don't think the Jordan Poole's going anywhere quite yet. I'm not saying that he's untradeable. I'm not saying that I don't think he's going to be an off-season trade. I think Jordan Poole is on the roster game 1 next season.
Oh, God, get rid of him. Glass half full. What off-season moves would you guys make? I think I'd trade Poole too, depending on the return. Yeah, I would move Jordan Poole. I would move Jordan Poole. I wouldn't move Jonathan Kuminga. And I would definitely try to find somebody who can score inside, some inside scorer who's not going to bog you down. Somebody who can score inside, because you got to have the one thing you got to have more size, but that size has got to be able to score. You can't have two non-shooters. So you need a big man shooter.
Jordan Poole represents a salary that could maybe get you a return that can address what you need. But who is that team? Who you trading him for? And what team is willing to come off that asset for Jordan Poole if the last impression of Jordan Poole is I'm paying him what? And he just did what in the playoffs? Like, I think the Warriors kind of need to re-audition him to the market again before they can get another team to be truly, truly interested. So I just don't think it's as easy as, you get rid of Jordan Poole's money and now all of a sudden you got a little money to play with. I just don't think it's that easy. I really don't. So
Mindspringer says, why are you in denial about Green being a sociopath, Larry? He's the heart and soul of the team. You call him whatever you want to call him. He's the heart and soul of the team. They don't win any titles without him. And I don't think they'll win any titles if they get rid of him. And I think that wherever he goes, he's likely to win more titles there. So, I don't want to see him in LA because he could be the final piece of the puzzle for the LA Lakers. He could be the final piece of the puzzle for the Kings. He could be the final piece of the puzzle for the Celtics. Come on. This guy is a winner. If you don't understand that, I can't help you. I really can't. The guy's a tremendous player. As far as his issues and bully and this and that, come on, man. I don't play that game. I don't bully. What? Because he dropped some guy. There's all kinds of fights that happen all the time that we never find out about.
Right.
So all those guys, they're bullies too, I guess. You just don't find out about it. So I don't.
Well, look. I mean, here's the thing. There is an element of Draymond is. I don't know if bully is the right word, but he is such an omnipotent presence. He is such a. There's no conversation that he doesn't insert himself right into, or there's no conversation that can happen with earshot around him that he won't then talk about on his podcast. He is equal parts a great teammate and an incredibly shameless self-promoter as well. Here's the thing. Whatever you want to attach to Draymond Green as a merit or a demerit, there's probably some truth to it.
He's a ferocious competitor.
Right. And a bully. And he's great. And he's an asshole. And he's totally, the guy you want in the trench with you when you're going to war. He's also a guy who, will be the person who rolls the grenade right into his own locker room. He's trying to fight Steve Kerr in Oklahoma City. He is someone who is a man baby.
I don't even blame him for the
governed by his own
LeBron. I
emotions.
don't blame him on the LeBron thing. I really don't. I don't. I never did. To me, I've played too much pickup basketball. You don't step over a guy like that. He just did a reciprocal response. It just happened he got teed up, and then that tee suspended him. But
the guy just got suspended for stomping on Domantas Sabonis's ribs. He is at times
grabbed his leg, and
he's at times in control and under control. Again, whatever you want
but he's
to say
also
about
a
Draymond,
ferocious
you're probably
competitor.
telling the truth.
He's an incredible competitor, though, and I don't think they would win without him. Not only that, the same reason I want to trade Jordan Poole is the same reason why I want to keep Draymond Green. Jordan Poole does nothing for Steph Curry. Draymond Green makes Steph Curry. So, Curry plays off of Draymond, and Draymond plays off of Curry, perfectly. And Poole doesn't do anything for Curry. Curry, if anything, he just takes shots away from Curry. I'm moving. You can replace Poole 1,000,000 times easier than or Klay Thompson for that matter than Draymond Green.
Look, here's the thing. I'm just playing
I'd go.
devil's advocate. I'm a big Draymond fan myself, but what if I told you that your next starting power forward wasn't the all-world lockdown defender that Draymond is, but he gets you 18.5 a night? Is that enough to make up for what Draymond might have done for you defensively, giving you almost a single-digit point total on a nightly basis? And I hear about, Draymond is much more than just scoring.
He totally shut down Sabonis. He was easily the best defender on AD. It's they didn't win and they weren't good enough or big enough, but it wasn't because of him. It was just they weren't good enough or big enough. I think he's a genius player. I think he reminds me the player that he reminds me the most of is Larry Bird. Larry Bird and Draymond Green are very similar. Bird was obviously a much better shooter, but their will and their attitude and you could just feel the will of Jordan. You could feel the will of Bird, and you could feel the will of Draymond.
Let me just say this though, because I've never even thought of that comparison, and I don't know if I necessarily agree with it.
Well, their games are different, but
it's a hard comparison point.
And also, they both made other guys better. At the end of the day, Larry Bird made other people better, and immediately had the biggest turnaround in the history of the NBA. The Celtics pre-Bird, the Celtics post-Bird. I think it was like a 50-game turnaround or some ridiculous amount of games.
I will say this: if Larry Bird and Draymond Green ever got into a fight, Larry Bird would whip Draymond Green's ass every day of the week and twice on Sunday.
Larry Bird is a tough guy.
Larry Bird was there to fuck you up. He was. So,
but he also was a winner if you said, what's the greatest part about Larry Bird? He didn't hit every three, but he hit the dagger three. You know what I'm saying? You're up 8. They're up 8. All of a sudden, Bird 3. Now they're up 11.
Well, let's be honest. Larry Bird played in an era where if he shot, 10 threes in a week, they were telling him, "Hey, Larry, a little, go to the low post."
Seriously.
And he was one of the great shooters of all time,
and a great passer. He's a great passer,
an incredible passer. But here's the
and a great trash talker.
Here's where I don't have them as they remind me of each other at all. Larry Bird could have been drafted by any team in the NBA, and that team would have had a chance to become a champion. Draymond Green's success is predicated on his circumstances and who is around him. Draymond Green could never, ever be the best guy on a basketball team.
Well, not the best guy, maybe, but let's just say this. Will you be proven incorrect if Draymond goes somewhere else and wins a title?
Where is that somewhere? How about this? Could
he goes to the
Green
Lakers,
go to
they're going to win a title.
Orlando, and now the Orlando Magic are champions? I don't think so.
What if he goes to the Pistons and the Pistons contend for a title?
Again, the Pistons now have James Wiseman, and they've got, a number 1 overall pick in their backcourt, and I bet you that those guys would have more to do with it. Draymond Green is the thread that ties talent together, where Larry Bird to me was the patch of talent that it doesn't matter how much thread you got. You ain't making a quilt without that.
I hear you. I mean, there's differences clearly.
By the way, I just made that up on the spot as I was trying to explain that. I thought that was a pretty damn good analogy, right?
Yeah,
Not bad. Not bad.
All right. We've been going for a while. Let me just get through a few of these and then we'll get out of here. Let's do this. We've talked a lot of hoop. Let me quickly jump. We're gonna do this. We're gonna do this last part quickly here. Let me
speed brick.
Speed brick. Yeah, here we go. Oh wait, we'll switch colors. Ooh, look at that.
Ooh.
All right, here we go. Now we're gonna switch to a little football. But American.
Get your Mind Springer's guide down. Get your comment down so I can see where
is he? Where's Mind Springer's comment? It's way up here. Where is it? Oh, there we go.
Take it down.
All right.
Sorry, Mind Springer.
All right, here we go. Let's jump to the Niner portion of the show. Who will be the 49ers' number one quarterback this year? And when I say that, I'm not asking you for week one. I'm not asking you for a particular week. I'm just going to throw it out that way. Who is going to win the Lance Purdy Darnold battle for the number one job?
No battle. It's Purdy's job.
Okay.
It's Purdy's job.
Who is going to win the Lance Darnold portion this summer?
Now we're talking.
Louis Riddick just went on with Rich Eisen and said that his sources around the Niners have told him that Sam Darnold is likely to be the story of the year in the NFL this year.
So
he's going to have that kind of a bounce back.
It is going to take 30 seconds for Kyle Shanahan to like Lance Darnold or Sam Darnold more than Trey Lance. 30 seconds, because all Kyle wants is a three-step drop, get it the fuck out as fast as possible and on target. He's never been in a situation where he's had the chance to succeed like that. He's going to have the, instant kismet with Christian McCaffrey, which is going to make him and get him a leg up on Trey Lance. Kyle got conned. He conned himself on Trey Lance.
You don't believe in Trey Lance?
I'm not saying I don't believe in Trey Lance. I'm saying Kyle Shanahan no longer believes in Trey Lance.
Really? You think so?
And Kyle Shanahan doesn't need a Trey Lance style of quarter. If you said, hey, right now, you could get, like Kyle, today, with zero cap ramifications or anything, your next quarterback can be Jalen Hurts. Are you in or out? He'd be out. He doesn't want a running style.
Do you think he wanted Mac Jones, like the reports indicated prior to the draft?
Yes, I do.
You believe that?
I do believe that because Mac Jones represented everything Kyle wants.
So why did he take Lance then?
Because he got conned. He conned himself. I think that he went ahead and and did see a degree of physical talent that made him start dreaming. And, he's drawing up shit on the back of a napkin. And, he went and he talked to Justin Fields, who he liked Justin Fields an awful lot. But then he thought, man, I think I know about what I know about Justin Fields isn't as intriguing to me as to what I don't know about Trey Lance. And I think he really thought that this is a raw hunk of clay that I can turn into the quarterback that I want while he still represents the modern mobile quarterback of the future, which everyone suggests you might need as well. So I'm going to go with the unknown more than the known. And I think he had buyer's remorse fucking immediately.
Okay. Okay. So I personally think that nothing really has changed about how the 49ers feel about Trey Lance, other than the Niners haven't won a Super Bowl yet. And so now
Brock Purdy changed how they feel about him. Brock Purdy did that.
No, I think I think it has a lot to do with, I disagree. And I love Brock Purdy, but I think what happened is just that the Niners haven't won the Super Bowl. If they had, they would have committed to a long-term, development of Trey Lance and taking their lumps. Now they feel like they need to win the Super Bowl, and Brock Purdy is just in the minds of Shanahan and Lynch.
Did they win the Super Bowl with Jimmy Garoppolo? Because if Jimmy Garoppolo had hit Emmanuel Sanders and won that Super Bowl, he's still your quarterback right now.
Probably, but my point is just that I think that the reason that they're really all in on Purdy is not because they don't believe in Lance. It's just because that they know that Brock Purdy's ready to play right now and ready to win right now.
He sees
and
the
they
field,
don't
he runs
know
the offense the way Kyle wants him to.
Well, they don't
and
know if Lance is ready to play.
Well, and here's the thing too.
They think he's not.
Brock Purdy has this element of, gosh, I'm just lucky to be here. So whatever you need me to do, coach, I'm not going to go an inch off script. And then he goes enough off script in the game to where you're like, well, you need that in a quarterback. You need a quarterback who can improvise when the shit goes bad around you. But otherwise, he sticks to the script and whatever Kyle's, yes, coach. It's like being in a French restaurant. Yes, chef. Yes, chef. And that's where I think that Sam Darnold is going to be smart enough to just be yes, chefing Kyle Shanahan. And Trey Lance just doesn't see the field like either of those guys.
Do you remember the last time you and I sat in a French restaurant? Do you remember the last time you and I dined in a French restaurant?
When was that?
It was in New Orleans. We went.
Oh my God, we were at Cochon.
We went to Cochon and had fried alligator.
It was you, me, Mike Holler.
No, it wasn't Holler. It was me, you, and the barista.
The barista wasn't Holler with us too, though. I think he was there.
No, we didn't let Holler hang with us. We weren't going that bad. We were going pretty good back then. We kept it on the. It was just me, you, and it was just the three of us, right?
Yeah,
we were at Cochon. I think we might have.
I don't know why I remember Mike being there, but I know the barista was there, and that was such a good meal. That's my favorite restaurant in New Orleans.
Oh, it was really amazing. It was amazing. We had fried alligator. It was amazing.
Somebody says to me, Damon, are you upset about the Bears moving out of Chicago proper? If that does happen,
I'm upset about it.
The chances of me remaining a Bears fan dwindle. Seriously,
come on, it's Soldier Field. It's on the lake. It's right there on the lake. I mean, come on. You're going to leave Soldier Field? Soldier Field's been up since the 1933 World Fair or something like that. I mean,
it would so thoroughly disgust me that it would help break an already fractured relationship I have with the Chicago Bears. The only thing I've ever wanted is for Virginia McCaskey to fucking die.
Oh God, don't say that.
I'm going to say that.
All my family are Bears fans. They were all Bears fans.
Then they want her to die too. So,
you know what the amazing thing about Chicago Bears fans? To this day, they love Ditka. They love Ditka.
Well, he won. I mean, that's the thing. He got done what no other coach since George Halas has been able to do.
It's amazing though what it does when you win in a city like that.
Can I share with you a stat that'll just blow your mind?
Sure.
In the history of the Chicago Bears, they've still to this day have not had a 4,000-yard passer.
Really?
They have never had a quarterback eclipse 4,000 passing yards. The next Chicago Bear quarterback to throw for 4,000 yards will be the first.
Vince Evans never did it?
No. No.
Tom Zach, the great Tom Zach.
Wasn't Tom Zach.
Harbs.
Craig Krenzel. None of them. Peter Tom Willis.
3 first names. All right. I personally, I think Kyle Shanahan is all pro Brock Purdy because Purdy fits his timeline. But I think what's going to happen here this year is that Trey Lance is going to come of age. Trey Lance is built the right way.
How can he come of age without getting the snaps? I mean, he has to play in order to come of age, and I don't think
he's going to play. He's going to beat out Sam Darnold. He's going to play in September. And
then, so you do think he's your week 1 starter then?
Yes.
Okay.
I do. And I think he's going to play well enough that there's going to be some hemming and hawing about going back to Purdy, but they're going to go back to Purdy, and Purdy's going to play even better than Trey played and better than Purdy played last year. And at the end of the year, they're going to trade Trey Lance, and they're going to get something good for Trey Lance. That would be my guess. But I think Trey Lance is coming. I think he's coming. I hope you're right. I really believe in him.
I'm not rooting against him. I mean, it would be cool. It would.
It means a lot to Trey Lance. And Trey Lance, football is the family business. He's smart. He'll work out his rough spots. It's vitally important to him. He'll do what he needs to do to beat out Sam Darnold. I cannot believe that Sam Darnold will beat out Trey Lance. I just don't believe it. Don't buy it at all. Don't believe in Sam Darnold.
Okay.
I think Sam Darnold is fool's gold. I think Trey Lance beats out Sam Darnold. I think the Niners play well in the first month. And I think there'll be some sentiment to stay with Lance, but they'll go back to Purdy. Purdy will come in. Purdy will play even better. Better than Lance played, better than Purdy played last year. And then Purdy will be like, all right, they'll go with Purdy. But I think Lance is going to find himself, and Lance is going to realize his potential. I
just
really believe
don't know. I mean, to me, Trey Lance remains an undiscovered animal. I can't evaluate him in any way. I don't know if he's going to be good, bad, anything.
Yeah.
There's nothing about him that isn't a question mark. So I'm not going to put any strong feelings into him one way or another. I'm just looking at this from the question of, what does Kyle want? And I think Kyle wants quarterbacks like Purdy and Darnold more than he wants quarterbacks like Trey Lance. Prove me wrong. Trey Lance proved me wrong. But I just think that Kyle knows that Kyle doesn't want anyone to be the star of his offense other than Kyle.
I know lots of people say that, but I think Kyle's way more chill than that. I don't think he's quite.
I don't think there's a single element of chill about Kyle Shanahan, especially
really.
On that
oh no, I think so. I think so. I mean, I've done a lot of interviews with him. I think he's a pretty chill guy. I think he
comes across as cool, but
he's hanging in Cabo with his players at the end of the year. I don't know if you think it's a good idea or bad idea, but not too many NFL coaches are doing that.
No, well, I mean,
it's wearing Yeezys.
Fits the that's okay. So you probably shouldn't do that anymore. But
exactly.
But yeah, no, I don't think Kyle is chill at all. I don't think he's chill about his quarterback play or his offense. I think he wants a guy.
He's hard on his quarterbacks, but I think he's a pretty easygoing dude.
I don't think he gives a damn about the name or number on the jersey. He just wants the ball delivered to 2 wide receivers, 2 running backs, and a tight end. That's it. Whoever does that the best is who he likes.
Walter Washington. Hey, Larry, I've been listening to you occasionally from the Bay Area, and now I'm realizing that you are one of the coolest sports analysts that I know of. And I love sports. Warrior fan since 1974.
I don't think you're cool, Larry, but what you have in spades over everyone is product knowledge. You have an element of product knowledge about you that, I mean, it's you're the rare guy in sports I wouldn't want to get into a name that roster conversation with.
If you don't think I'm cool, go listen to some of the player interviews I've done in the Niner locker room.
You're cool.
And come on, I mean,
here's what. So you're relatable.
I'm relatable, and also,
that makes you cool in a world of unrelatable. Just
you and I both do one thing
media
well.
Members.
You and I both do one thing well. Is we get on the level of our interview subjects, not above them, not below them, on their level.
I think so.
You interview Trent Baalke, you get on Trent's level. You interview a player, you get on that player's level.
I'd rather
you're not beneath them. Oh, and you're not above them. I'll tell you,
right?
You're on their level. That's how I kind of see you. That's how I see myself. We not patting ourselves in the back, but we don't think of ourselves as lesser, and we don't think of ourselves, at least I know I don't think of myself as greater, and I definitely don't think of myself as lesser. And I like to just be on the level of the player. So I like to try to ask questions. Like the best interviews I've ever done in the Niner locker room start with, "Hey man, where are you from? Tell me a little bit about yourself." You know what I mean? Right. That's so much better than, last Sunday, you missed this coverage and they caught a ball. The interviews never go well. But if you can just relate and just be like, "Hey man, where are you from? Tell me a little bit about yourself. What are you into?"
What I think
it's like some of the best stuff comes out.
What I think you and I do have in common is not a level of coolness, but it's a level of relatability and accountability. Players, it matters to players that you.
That's a good way of saying it.
All these guys understand that criticism comes with the territory. They get criticized from afar by so many keyboard warriors who then never show up to be accountable for their criticisms in the room. And there's an element of that respects them. This, to me, is the single greatest element of Grant Cohn's career. Because Grant will burn the fucking entire locker room down and then he'll be standing in it when that game is over every Sunday. And that is an element of Grant that I have always respected. He will talk mad shit about everyone and everything, and he hides behind nothing. Yeah. And that is why the players respect him. And to an extent, that is why players, I think, across all sports have respected us, because we've gone into that locker room after saying a guy has had a bad night, and we will, we're there. We're there to talk about how they feel about us, how we feel about them. And I do think that is how you gain a player's respect.
Yeah. I mean, one of my favorite interviews this year is I interviewed Ray McLeod after the Dallas fumble, not the day after. I really don't like that, by the way. I don't mind doing post game, but I don't like the you fucked up, what happened. I hate that. I hate that. There's no way to ask those questions without coming across like you're second guessing when it's 45 minutes after the game and the guy's standing there in his jock and he hasn't even showered yet, and you're already asking him his mindset. I don't like that. One, I don't like that because I know they haven't watched the film yet. They haven't sat down with their coaches yet. They haven't digested it in what it meant in the game and every other aspect of it. But I went up to him that Tuesday and I'm like, and I said, Ray, can we talk before the interview? We were cool. So he was like, yeah. And I said, well, I'm going to ask you about the fumble. And he's like, all right. And he kind of gave me a funny look. And I said, but I have a different way to ask you about it, because I want to ask you about it in the context of time in the actual game, because literally 20 minutes later of real time and probably 5 minutes of game time, you touched the ball again and you had this 53-yard return and you looked like you were hell bent to like make up for your error. So I asked him about it. Tell me about the fumble. Tell me about that feeling. Tell me about what it was like as you're sitting there walking off the field. You haven't fumbled all year, but you fumbled in the playoffs. And then there was roughly 20 minutes of actual time on the clock from when you fumbled to when you got your hands on the ball again. And next time you ran one for 53 yards and really set up the team. I'm like, take me through those minutes, whether it's 20 minutes, 25, you're on the sidelines. What are you saying to yourself? What are you saying? Are you saying something to anybody? You talking to anybody? Is anybody talking to you? I know you're feeling like S.
Right, your persona non grata in that moment.
Yeah, exactly. And he's like,
mentally. See, that's relating. That's a relatable question, Larry.
Oh, and
that's
it was
why
so
you're
good.
relatable.
It was unbelievable, dude. He was like, he came back. He's like, you know what? I just sat there and I kept saying to myself, I got to make up for this. I got to make up for this. I got to make up for this. And I said, what was your mindset when you saw that ball in the air coming to you on the next punt return? I'm like, and he was so real. It was so cool. He's like, I was like, I got to make the first guy miss, and then I got to get north and south immediately. And it was like, if you watch the highlight, sure enough, he sidesteps a guy and gets north and south immediately. But I mean, it was just so cool to like hear a guy embrace a question about his failure, take us behind the scenes about his mindset of how he coped with that failure on the sidelines in real time. And then what was going through his mind when the ball was in the air and it was coming to him again. And then, it was so cool. And I remember sitting there going, man, thank you very much. And he's like, yeah, no problem. And I was just like, hey, I just think it's super cool that you're willing to, to kind of own the moment, good, bad, or otherwise. He's like, yeah, that's what I'm about. And, I've got great respect for Ray. So, I mean, those kinds of things I think are so much more interesting than, you fumbled. What the hell happened? It's like,
why did you fumble? You're not supposed to do that.
Why did you fumble? And what were you thinking there?
Do you hate footballs?
Do guys rip you in the room when you fumble? I mean, so anyway, it's just relating. It's about relating.
Yeah.
A couple last ones before we jet.
Okay.
One is, who is the 49er you're most eager to see in July or August? Who's the 49er outside we talk quarterbacks. So let's take the quarterbacks out of it. Give me the 49er you're most eager to see this summer.
Well, I'm not eager to see a single player this summer. I really don't give a shit until week 1. I mean, until the curtain goes up, I don't care.
Enough.
I've seen enough, I've been fooled by, the Kevin Barlows of the world.
Right.
So but if I had to, who is a guy who could prove to be didn't really know him much last year, but could be a big reason why things work out great for the 49ers is Drake Jackson. I'm really excited to see what he becomes. And obviously,
that's a great one.
This feels like low-hanging fruit. I cannot wait to see what Christian McCaffrey looks like in a full offseason program with the 49ers. Like, he was an instant perfect fit. How much better will he be with a full year of just drawing up shit with Kyle on the back of napkins and knowing every element of this offense inside and out? He's one of the smartest football players in the league, Stanford boy, and I can't wait to see what he looks like in a full offseason workout program and knowledge with the Niners. I mean, I think that that's really, really exciting. But Drake Jackson,
yeah, great call.
To me, is the guy who is either going to make like, hey, did you have a good year? Because here's the thing, Larry, I don't think the Niners are going to have a bad year. I don't think bad year is available to them unless catastrophic injury befalls them again. Right. They are going to be one of the 5 best teams in football the whole way through. I really believe that. So the difference between you had a good year and a great year could come from Drake Jackson turning into a guy who got a little bit of pressure in the limited time that you saw him to, oh, you know what? He finished the year with 8.5 sacks and he was everywhere. Like, that to me is a big, big difference maker this year. Obviously, the big man in the middle from Philadelphia should do an awful lot to unlock Eric Armstead and Bosa, but Jackson to me is a really interesting player. So
yeah, that's a great one, man. I'll go one offense, one defense, one special teams. Jackson is my guy on defense for sure. Jackson is supposedly put on a lot of upper body weight, according to Steve Wilkes, and has been at the facility every day. And that's all I needed to hear, man.
That's what I want to hear. Yeah,
that's exactly what I want to hear. He is really special, I think. Drake is the guy on offense. On defense. On offense, I'm going to say Colton McKivitz. I think Colton McKivitz is better than Mike McGlinchey, and I think that Colton McKivitz is going to outplay Mike McGlinchey. I think we're going to be like, Mike McGlinchey who? I think Colton McKivitz is going to be an upgrade from Mike McGlinchey. I really believe that. He's a better pass protector. I think he's a little bit more dependable against speed rushers, and I think he's going to be fine against. I think he's going to be really fine against opening holes for the run in the run game. So McKivitz is my offensive guy. Drake is my defensive guy. And then I got to go Jake Moody. I mean, you just kissed off Robbie Gould, who's never missed in the playoffs, for a rookie kicker, and you invested a late 3rd round pick in a rookie kicker. But everybody that I've talked to, Damon, from your Big Ten fans, say, man, this guy's not just a kicker. This guy's great. That he's super clutch and he's super reliable. So Jake Moody, can he be the 49ers kicker, just going forward? And then McKivitz on offense and Drake on defense. And those 3 guys, I mean, there's a bunch of guys, but those 3 really are the guys.
I feel like he's really proven. So to say Brandon Ayuk is a little bit of a cop out, but to me, Brandon Ayuk is the best wide receiver on this team. All due respect to Debo, the best pure wide receiver on the team. And can Danny Gray hit the field? And if he does actually hit the field, can he stretch it? Can he really be a difference maker? Because now, with Kittle and McCaffrey and Debo running underneath shit and Ayuk springing all kinds of route trees all over you, that deep threat could pop like never before if you really got separation and foot speed and a quarterback who could hit him. So could, the fastest guy on the team be a difference maker? The answer is historically, yeah, that's supposed to happen. And we'll see if that happens. Kyle's really hard on his wide receivers. You talk about him being hard on quarterbacks, man. He is much harder, I think, on his wide receivers.
Because he was one, and yeah, you're right. And he definitely, that's a good call.
And I think that he understands that the quarterback isn't as relevant as the perfect route against the defense that's not ready to cover it. That's where Kyle gets his ego involved with, I'm the star and the play caller and the genius. And I think he's earned the right to feel that way. Kyle, here's what Kyle Shanahan will be with or without a Super Bowl. He will be the winningest and longest tenured head coach in franchise history. He's not far away from that right now.
No,
he's not far away from either category right now. Now,
and what's his greatest thing? I would say it's the memory of Chip Kelly and Jim Tomsula. I mean, the memory of those 2 failed regimes is the greatest, the fresh memory of those two failed regimes, I think is the greatest thing he's got going for him in some ways. Nobody wants to move off of Kyle because, oh my God, what could be coming next? That's how I see it.
Yeah, no, I mean, you're right. By the way, I didn't mean to tune out on you for a second, but I'm scanning the 49ers, just rosters. Like, is there another name I should bring up right now? But I think that I mean, Colton McKivitz, again, like the way that Drake Jackson can turn the year from good to very good. Colton McKivitz can be the guy who there's a persistent problem along this offensive line, or this offensive line ain't a problem no more. Like because I believe in Burford. I do.
Burford's a stud.
Yeah. So
Burford's a blue chipper.
I can't wait to see what he looks like in year 2. And they're going to be good.
All right, let's finish strong here. I've got 2 last ones and then the quick trifecta. Here we go.
A Wednesday trifecta.
The Wednesday trifecta because you're here.
Suing you for copyright infringement. Go ahead.
Is the NFC a 2-horse race between the Niners and the Eagles? And if not, who's the team that interrupts Niners Eagles? In my mind, it is a 2-horse race, and no team is interrupting Niners Eagles. But what say you?
Again, an injury can interrupt anything in this league. So to say that they're going to definitely be the best the whole way through, let's see what happens to both these teams, the rosters, their health. Dallas Cowboys is, in the group of 5 NFC teams to worry about. I would say that, and this is going to feel like a stretch to some people, New York Giants. What does Brian Daboll do in year 2 with that team? Do they, bring back Saquon? Is he, is the New York Giants are worth keeping an eye on for sure. And this is going to sound nuts. The Detroit Lions. There's a big drop off between Niners, Eagles, and Lions. But if you had to, I like the Lions more than I like the Bears, more than I like the Packers, more than I like the Vikings, which means I think they're going to win that division. The Detroit Lions could win a division.
I think it's going to be Niners Eagles, but the one team that concerns me in the NFC.
There is one more too, by the way. Go ahead.
For me, it's the Chicago Bears. And here's why. The Bears, now I don't know if there's a great piece out. You've heard of Warren Sharp, right? Warren Sharp.
Yep.
Yeah, Warren Sharp puts out reams and reams of interesting NFL data. He came out with a great article in the last couple of days that I read that basically it breaks down that this year there'll be 95 NFL games played where one team has a rest advantage on their opponent. It's the most in the history of the NFL. There will be so there are some teams that are like plus 12. The Jets, the Bears, the Commanders are plus 12. They have 12 net extra rest days than their opponents. The Niners are on the other end of the spectrum. They're minus 20. Net rest is basically defined as the total number of rest days, total days of rest compared with the team that you're playing this weekend. So if you played on Sunday and they played on Monday, you're plus 1 on rest against your opponent. The Niners are minus 20. The Bears are plus 12, best in the league. Chicago does not play a single game with a rest disadvantage all season long, and they are plus 12 overall as far as rest days. And by the way, the Bears, over the last 3 seasons, in games where they have had even one less rest day than their opponent, 0-9. So the Bears do not have a single game with a rest disadvantage all year. I think that and the new GM and the draft they just had and the last couple of drafts have been good. I think the Bears are the up-and-coming sleeper team in the NFC, but I still think it's Niners-Eagles. I say it. The Niners-Eagles will wind up in the NFC Championship game, but the Bears could wind up in that game too, in my opinion.
Justin Fields runs enough to where if he makes it through 17 games again, God bless. Let's see. But that is a significant stat. I had not seen Warren Sharp share that. Very interesting. The other team that I was going to bring up too,
who do you got?
Seahawks. Seahawks, if Geno doesn't take a massive step backwards, that team gets better around him. Pete knows what he's fucking doing. They are going to beat the Niners in one of their games against the Niners because they always do. So I just feel like look out for the Seahawks. Cowboys are decent enough to not just be dismissible outright. There are two teams on the one line, and then there is a big gap between that one line and the rest of, the Seahawks, the Cowboys, the Giants. It is Niners, Eagles, and then everybody else. But there's a group of three in that everybody else that I think could challenge.
The only thing I'll say about Seattle and Dallas is I don't think Seattle or Dallas can stop the run. I looked this up last night because Louis Riddick went on with Rich Eisen and was touting the Seahawks as this like team that's going to win the NFC West. And so I looked up the numbers. Here's what the numbers told me. When the season ended, the Niners, number 1 defense, number 5 offense, number 1 turnover differential team, and number 1 against the run. Seattle, 13th on offense, 26th on defense, 14th in turnover differential, 28th versus the run. They didn't add anybody of significance to help their run D. They didn't stop the run last year. I liked their draft, but they didn't get anybody to help their run D. I think Seattle is coming.
You might be right.
But it won't be this year.
I don't think that there's much carryover from one year to the next. Let's see what
fair.
it all looks like again. To me, off-season workout programs, preseason football, mini camp, training camp. Like, to me, I would rather hear nobody tore their ACL than anyone had a good mini camp. If you told me the entire team, everyone had a piece of shit mini camp, not a single pass was completed, not a single ball wasn't fumbled. It was a disaster in every conceivable way, but they're heading into week 1, healthy as an ox. I'll take that.
Yeah, no, he looked good in minicamp. Yeah, I mean, seriously, everybody looks good in fucking minicamp. All right, here we go. We're going to switch from red to giant orange, and I got one giant question for you. Here it is. If you owned the San Francisco Giants,
Shohei Ohtani,
give me one move you would make.
Shohei Ohtani. Yeah, Shohei Ohtani.
We're in lockstep.
I would give Shohei Ohtani $100 million a year to come play.
I would say I would open the bidding at $75 million a year. $75 million a year for 10 years.
$75 million a year sounds like market value for Ohtani. I'm coming so over the top. The Giants
$100 million? AAV of $100 million?
$100 million.
Isn't the highest in the game right now like 40? You're going to double up that. That's almost that.
They can't sign anyone ever.
But they got to get that guy. They got to get Shohei.
Yes. And look at it this way.
I agree. I don't know about 100 million, but I agree with that.
They got to tack on, Larry, if they got to tack the $2 back onto the Coors Lights that you're saving your money on this year, you go ahead and you do that. Shohei Ohtani, boom or bust. There's no price point that they should not meet to get him. Obviously, 100 million is a way over the top number. It's an exaggeration, but that is what I'm talking.
But you're just saying whatever it takes.
That's it. It's the
you're like Sonny Weaver in Draft Day.
What do you
remember what
I've never seen
Mack,
that movie.
No matter what. He wrote that. He did the Trent Baalke. The way that Trent Baalke wrote down AJ Jenkins, put it in an envelope. Damon and Larry. I put AJ Jenkins' name in an envelope, and I left it there. And then when our pick came up, I said, you know what? Where's that fucking envelope? And then I said, you know what? We're gonna pick AJ Jenkins. I don't care if he can't play dead. We're gonna draft him. I don't care if Jim Harbaugh's never heard of him. Screw Jim Harbaugh.
You know what I don't like? I don't like sports movies. I watch enough real sports to where I don't need a fake sports movie. So I've never even seen Draft Day. I've heard it's decent. It's
not
good.
bad. It's not bad.
Yeah. But I've never even seen it. The only sports movie I like is Hoosiers because I saw it when I was 7 years old.
Who was the athlete? Who was the actor who died? Who was just so incredible? He played Jackie Robinson in 42. Bozeman. Chadwick Boseman.
Chadwick Boseman. It was Black Panther.
Chadwick Boseman was Vontae Mack in Draft Day.
Oh, okay.
And Sonny Weaver Jr., who's the general manager, who's Kevin Costner, writes down on a sheet of paper Vontae Mack no matter what.
Okay. And by the way, so I like someone's like Damon, Major League. Yes, but Major League isn't necessarily a sports movie as much as is a comedy disguised as a sports movie.
Is that you, Tolbert?
Yeah, no, and
It's
I
like-
do love Major League. I do love Major League. But again, what I love about Major League, it was one of the first R-rated movies I ever saw. I was like 9 years old when that came out. I would not be running to the movie theater to watch Major League now at this point because that was before sports became my profession. So
there you go. There you go. Okay. So here we go. The trifecta, the Wednesday trifecta. And why are we doing the trifecta? For those of you watching YouTube, Damon used to do the Tuesday trifecta on the radio. And since he's here, it's Wednesday. We'll go Wednesday trifecta.
Wednesday Wyfecta.
Here we go. Now, when you do this, would you give all three questions up front or just one at a time?
Well, one at a time. Is there a theme related around them, or are they just three random questions? Because the part of the Tuesday
three
trifecta,
random
they were built around
today
a theme.
questions. They're
Okay,
today sports questions. Okay?
From the headlines.
From the headlines, we go to the hopper, my friend.
Show me your lightning bolt.
Did you ever meet him? Hacksaw?
Yes, I have.
Lee
met him on
Hacksaw Hamilton.
on Radio Row. Yes.
Let's go to Encinitas for Ralph. Ralph, how are you? Hey, what's up, Lee? Big fan, man. Like talk about Darryl Strawberry and the Dodgers. Excellent topic, my friend. Glad you brought it up. And then he would be like, let's go to the hopper. It seems that the Indianapolis Colts have a new special teams coach, and it's Rusty Tillman. Rusty is the new, I mean, it's just ridiculous. But Hacksaw, touchdown, Marion Butts. All right. I love Hacksaw. Hacksaw is one of the best. All right, here we go. Trifecta question number 1. Who wins the NBA title? Denver, the Lakers, the Heat, or the Celtics?
I think it's the Denver Nuggets. Boy, did they look good the other night, even though LA came back on them. That's the most amount of points the Los Angeles Lakers have given up in their playoff history. Jokic, to me, is just insane right now, and he needs that running buddy that is Jamal Murray. Jamal Murray put it on D'Angelo Russell so hard that I don't think the Lakers might get swept. I mean, that is how good the Nuggets looked, even though a 21-point lead became a hold your breath victory in game 1. I really like the Denver Nuggets tonight. I can't believe the Celtics lose on their home court tonight. Like,
I saw that. Yep.
I'm stunned by that. To me, the Nuggets have what it takes to beat just Jimmy Butler and a collection of dudes, and that's what the Heat are. And Jimmy Buckets is the man, dude. He really is. You want to talk about a winner, a leader. He's
awesome.
Oh, man, he
can elevate. I agree. I like the Nuggets. The reason I like the Nuggets is they've got the biggest number of guys that are in the prime of their career. That's how you win titles. They're not going to be denied this year.
It's their time.
They're stacked.
And the NBA, see, the Warriors made everyone forget how the NBA works. Usually, a really good team has to come together over the years and knock on the door and be denied letting in a few years before they get let in. The Warriors got right on the front porch and they were, hi, welcome everybody. We're in the new dynasty that's going to change basketball forever. Fuck everybody. Like that's not how basketball works. The Nuggets have been on the come for years. It was a Jamal Murray injury that sort of delayed that. I think this is their year. And for a great fan base who's never gotten a bite of the apple, I hope that it happens for them.
Digital Drew in Chicago says, Larry, I'd pay for you to do bulky for my voicemail greeting. Hello. You've reached Digital Drew, and he's got a lot going on with the Mortal Kombat. But let me just say, he's not here. Leave him a message, and Digital, if I know him at all, he's going to get right back to your ass. I'll
Finish him.
Nobody's as good as Double D's. Let me just tell you right now. All right. There you go. All right. Here we go. Question number 2. Most underrated sporting event on the calendar. What is an underrated sporting event in your mind? And there are a few in my mind. And there's one that is coming up right about now, and it made me think of it because I saw it on the tube last night. And its biggest event will be coming up here on a Saturday, I think, coming up here, maybe this Saturday, maybe next Saturday.
I'm going to give you.
It's really underrated though. It's a phenomenal watch, incredible watch.
So I'm going to give you 2 things that in person that are totally. So I would say this. Final Fours are addictive. if you go to one Final Four, you're never going to want to miss a Final Four ever again. There's so much. That Saturday night, the Final Four, all 4 fan bases in the arena, all 4 fan bases got a shot to win a national championship. There is a buzz and electricity in that building that dwarfs, like Super Bowls and World Series. And Final Fours are very, very special. On a personal note, you have never seen a more pure, excellent, just beautiful sporting event than the Little 500, which is a bicycle race at Indiana that the movie Breaking Away was based on. The Little 500, and this is when Lance Armstrong was still allowed to come over in America. But Lance Armstrong went to a Little 500 and he says, look, I've won 7 Tour de France's, and this is the greatest thing I've ever fucking seen in my life. And it really is just the ultimate college weekend. Like, again, I got 2 memories from my college days that drip with college memories. Larry, though, my official answer, and I'm not saying this because you just brought up on Memorial Day. So everyone should go to one Kentucky Derby in their life because you have no idea how much fun that is. And I'm not talking about being with the rich ladies in their fancy hats and Tom Brady and trying to suck up to all the billion-dollar suits. I'm talking about in the field with all the cousin fuckers having a great time in Kentucky. That's an awful lot of fun. The only thing that has ever been more like, holy shit, is the Indianapolis 500. And I do not like auto racing. I'm not interested at all.
My dad when he was in the Army, he was stationed at 5th Army headquarters. My dad was a JAG Corps attorney, and he was in Indianapolis one year for the weekend of the Indy 500, and he took his 64 Impala around the oval. I guess is that part of the tradition? They let people drive the oval leading into the event?
No, not anymore. They don't. But what is incredible?
Yeah, so he did that.
You're allowed to bring your own cooler. It's got to be the right size cooler. You can't bring, a Yeti that is the size of a refrigerator. But you can you can bring your own cooler. So you got your own beer. Going to the infield. It is much like when you go to the first time you see horse racing. The first time you ever see horse racing, you can't believe how fast those horses are really going. Like, just go to Golden Gate Fields, go to a shitty Golden Gate Fields day and just watch those thoroughbreds go. And you're going to be like, wow, man, I had no idea. Television does speed no justice. Until you see an Indianapolis 500 with your own eyes, you have no fucking clue how fast those cars are going. I mean, it is literally, you hear them.
Better than Daytona or not?
Then you see them. Oh, dude, yeah. No, it's so here's the thing. I've
open
never
wheel.
Been to
you
Daytona.
Like open wheel?
I've never been to Daytona, but the Indianapolis, they're going so fast, it's just a blur. The Indianapolis 500 is one of the most, oh my God, sporting events. And I don't think it's underrated because it's also known as the greatest race in the world. So I don't know how underrated it is. But if I could, tell everyone, you get to go to one major sporting event that you might not have on your wish list, but put the Indianapolis 500 on top of that because it is a spectacle like nothing else. It really is. And then to me, always, I would love to go to a Masters. I've always just wanted to walk the course at Augusta. I've always wanted to go to a Masters. So those are my official answers. The Little 500, the Indianapolis 500, and the Masters would be mine. What's yours?
I'll tell you, I stumbled on it the other night, and it was now granted, I played high school lacrosse and I played college lacrosse at Sac State.
So I played lacrosse too. Defense, 6 foot or stick.
Yeah, I was a crease defenseman.
Maybe I was a crease defenseman too.
Yeah,
I didn't know this about you.
I was a crease defenseman. I used to light people up. I mean,
that's it. All I looked for was the guy looking for the ball, and I just wrecked people. My ball skills, my stick skills were average at best. I was just there to fuck you up when you were looking for the ball on the ground.
Seriously, it was a great it was a great job. It was a great job. Great sport. But I stumbled on the other night to I tuned in for Yale Georgetown in the second round of the NCAA tournament. And Georgetown, it was at Georgetown, and Georgetown beat Yale. But I mean, Yale scored like 7 goals in a row and were up like 16-11 or something like that. And then they wound up losing 19-17. And it's just great now I don't like the box lacrosse game that you see like the NLL where they play off the board and it's a different game. I like the field lacrosse game that where we get the NCAA tournament and you get the powerhouses Duke and Maryland and Virginia and sometimes Ivy League schools and Cornell and Princeton and Johns Hopkins and there's so many great ones.
If you're talking about going to it, maybe, but I'm going to tell you right now the reason. And I love lacrosse. I think I like playing lacrosse more than I enjoyed playing any other sport in my life, and it might have been my best sport. I've always thought that the reason why lacrosse will never pop is because it's a shitty TV product. It just doesn't play well out on television, I don't think. So I'm surprised that lacrosse is your answer.
Oh, I love it. I love it. I mean,
yeah, no, to me, it's not a good watch.
I love watching all the scoring. I love the attitude. I love the fact that you can be 5'5" or 6'5" and you could still be dominant. You know what I mean? You could be a 6'5" dominant player. You could be a 5'5" dominant player.
It's a little like baseball in that way.
Yeah, it's really interesting. And Saturday, we get the quarterfinals, Georgetown, Virginia. Michigan takes on Duke. Those are the quarterfinals coming up Saturday. And then Sunday, I think it's Army against Penn State, Notre Dame against Hopkins. And then I think Memorial Day Memorial Day is coming up, right?
Yeah. Well, so I thought you were, and I wasn't saying.
So I think Memorial Day is when they play the final.
That's when the Indianapolis 500 is.
Is that when okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's Memorial Day. They play the final of the lacrosse.
Labor Day? No, it's Memorial Day.
It's Memorial Day. But yeah, I mean, I tape it, I watch it. It's like, I don't know. It's just it takes me back to high school. It's like therapeutic. Love it. Absolutely love it. All right. All right. Last question on the trifecta. Today, one of the big announcements that was really caught my surprise, and I was like, what? Why? Is Pat McAfee's show is going to ESPN. And I don't know why Pat McAfee either feels the need to join ESPN, or I'd love to know what kind of check he got, because ESPN is just totally hemorrhaging. Nobody watches ESPN anymore. I mean, it's the numbers are just absolutely in the toilet. No, they everybody on there, all their shows suck. Nobody watches anything.
I heard one of the best things I heard about ESPN, and this is before you even had like all your first take copies, and Mike Greenberg, who you want to talk about I don't get the appeal of. Mike Greenberg is just, who gives a fuck? No one cares about the Jets, dude. No, not even Jets fans.
How about JJ Redick? He's just embarrassing himself left and right.
Yeah, I've never been a big JJ Redick fan. He was also really terrible to my producer on the phone. And if you try to big time a radio producer and pull the "don't call me directly" act, you can just go fuck yourself. Another Duke spoiled jackass. But I would say that the best criticism I ever heard of ESPN was, so basically the entire network is one of the shows has the topics going across the top, the other show has them on the left hand side, the other show's got the topics on the right hand side, and then the other show's got the topics on the bottom. And it really just got copycatted of each other. Nothing will ever be as good as the original, pardon the interruption. That was the highlight of ESPN. It's all been downhill from there. I think McAfee is doing it for a couple reasons. Number one, it will allow him more red rope access than ever before. You can be famous on YouTube and you can be famous on ESPN. And there's a difference there because ESPN is a big deal. It is the worldwide leader. So there's that. I think he will watch his language. But what he has retained that is just unthinkable to the way the ESPN used to do business is he is going to do the show on ESPN. It's going to be streamed as well as ESPN Plus, and it's going to be streamed on YouTube all at the same time. So he is literally going to be.
So they're kind of investing in his show, as much as they're paying him to work for them.
Yes, it is the greatest distributor he will be on the number one sports network on the entire planet. He will be on the number one distributor of media, YouTube, on the entire planet. And for the first time ever, you get to watch an ESPN show without subscribing to ESPN, which means he gets to rewrite the rules on the fly for how business is now done. And he will bring that element of we're all hanging out on a YouTube page, dicking around with each other, to ESPN that they are so desperate to capture. I am surprised that he's giving, like, to me,
You already took ESPN down, bro. You stay independent.
Well, and that's that. But the thing is I think he
wants it all.
He eventually wants to be more around the NFL because he's an NFL player and ESPN allows him access to that. He wants to be around the college football game and he gets to go and do College Game Day now. And he gets all the red rope access.
He becomes ESPN, kind of like Stephen A.
He is. He will be Stephen A, but he'll be Stephen A without the, and we'll see, we'll see. But Stephen A. Smith has now become a parody of Stephen A. Smith. I mean, he's not even Stephen A. Smith anymore. There's no element of credible journalist to him remaining. He is a screamer of the first degree. He talks about how autonomous he is. Stephen A. Smith is handed his positions by the producer of that show, and he takes the position that the producer tells him to, and he tries to pass it all off as this is all me. Dude, the man is artificial in so many ways. There's nothing authentic about him. McAfee has an era of authentic to him still that ESPN is dying to cling on to. It will be interesting watching him, because I've always thought that if you could take the, you take the F word out of that guy's mouth, what has he really got to say? Will he have the appeal? Well, we'll find out. What I bet he does, Larry, is he'll do, 2 hours a day on ESPN, but then
he'll be on the Manning cast.
He'll go 4 hours still on YouTube. So the first 2 hours that he shares on YouTube with ESPN will be cleaned up, and then he'll do the, unabridged, I can say whatever I want as the show continues in the just YouTube arena. And look, the money that they put in front of him, it was again, to me, how much money could they put? DraftKings gave him $125 million. So ESPN's got to be basically saying, yeah, so we'll match your $125 million. We'll also pay to rent the studio that you're in. We'll pay for all camera upgrades, everything. You have a network backing you. So your $125 million that we're paying you, you literally keep every penny of that beyond taxes now. We'll pay the crew around you, so you're not paying your own army anymore, Pat, which is a raise for you. He's going to be on that, $500 million track in career earnings when this is done. Say whatever you want about ESPN. Someone's like, dude, you go and you work for ESPN, you lose all credibility in my book. Okay, I guess that's one way to look at it. You can also say that ESPN installs a level of credibility that is unattainable without them.
I mean, I don't know about that anymore, but that's definitely old school thinking for sure. I don't know if it's still the case, but I'm sure it's a fat check. And you know what? Maybe he in this way, he looks at it like, hey, I'm getting it all.
Exactly.
That's this, but now I'm getting it all.
So instead of having my own piece of a very significant future pie, I get the whole pie, I get the new pie, I get the old pie, I get all pies, I get the entire fucking bakery. That's what he gets now. So
Chardal says giant sweep Phillies. Thank you, Chardal, for the super chat.
Yeah.
All right, man. Hey, that was two hours. And
I know we were going to do one. You know what this reminds me of, Larry? This reminds me of you and me and our phone calls from the day.
I know.
It's just now we're just doing it on YouTube. Like we always used to say, Larry and I'd call Larry to talk to him 10 minutes about something, a blown save or whatever, a bad at bat. And 3 hours later, I'm like, okay, my wife's asleep and I got to go upstairs now. So it was great to hang out with you as always. The Home and Home. The Home and Home is the best show in Bay Area sports.
This was my favorite episode that we've done, just because, you know what? We started off just like being so like just personal and talking about our dads and talking about things we actually love and care about, that it got me into the right mode, I think, for the show, as opposed to just, topics and questions and topics.
I've always said you had a bad attitude. So no, this was a lot of fun.
Dusty Gold says, effing great, Damon.
No, it was a lot of fun. Everyone who digs this, please subscribe to Damon Bruce Plus, and that way when we do this over on my channel, you won't miss a thing. Larry, as always, it's a pleasure to hang out with you, and I mean that so sincerely. We're going to be hanging out together in person tomorrow night. You're coming to the Guardsman Sports Auction.
Yeah,
I can't wait to have you at the table. I think our wives are going to have a great time. They'll be meeting each other for the first time.
Yes.
And looking forward to a great night with you tomorrow night. So
tell my wife that tell my wife and tell your wife to mention to my wife that you really like her haircut, because she just went to the salon today to get her hair done so she would look her very best for you guys.
Got the hair did. I like that.
Got the hair done. So she's like, you know what? She's And I didn't push her on it like, hey, you doing that because we're going out tomorrow night? She just wants to look her best. So you just,
There you go.
know, there you
Well,
go.
look, it's an awful lot of fun. Girls are in cocktail dresses, guys are in suits and ties. I told you, it's not a black. I will be wearing a tuxedo, Larry. You don't need to, but I'm emceeing the thing.
Look at you.
What I want you to do is entertain the table in my absence while I'm up there emceeing. Pay attention just a little to what I'm doing. But then we're going to come on down and we're going to have a grand old time together. I don't know which one of you is going to be driving. I got you parking. We got you complimentary parking in downtown San Francisco. So drive, but you and I are going to get drunk together tomorrow night. So there you go.
We go. Make my wife drive us home.
There you go. With a great haircut.
MF says, Larry, London Papa were blacked out at the patio today. They were drinking heavily. They probably saw the latest ratings. All right, guys. I can't help but take shots. Damon, you're the man. We'll talk to you soon, brother.
Thank you, Larry. Always a pleasure.
There you go. The great Damon Bruce. Wow. Walter Washington. Larry, just show up. That's cool. Yeah, man. Damon's, I hope you guys enjoyed tonight because that's, we kind of go back and forth. Great respect for that guy. And it's weird. Our careers have kind of intertwined. And really, nobody's ever been smart enough to really get us together at the same time. That's why we're doing it now, and we appreciate every one of you. So let me do this. I've got 21 starred chats, including some of the very best of the night. That's coming up next. If you got a comment that you want to throw in on anything that we've discussed, feel free. We got this one from Nick. He says, Larry, any chance of getting Ratty? I will reach out to Ratty. I promise I will reach out to Ratty. I'd love to have him. I would absolutely love to have him. Digital Drew said, best show yet with D. Bruce. I want more. Did you like my Trent Baalke, Digital Drew? I like Damon and I like Larry. I don't know if I like Damon and Larry. You know what I'm saying? Oh, man. Now we got people taking shots at Tommy T. I can't put that up there. Do not take shots at Tommy T. All right. Let me do this. Let me tell you about our sponsors. We're brought to you by Pig and a Pickle, best barbecue in Northern California. We're going to come back, hit the chat, last go round here. But first, a word from our sponsors, starting with Pig and a Pickle.
So New York style sausage was started over 70 years ago. We are the largest producer of fresh Italian sausage on the West Coast.
What makes our sausage in New York style is really the recipe came from back east, from New York, from Connecticut.
If you look at all of our labels, there's maximum 4 or 5 ingredients, which we're really proud of.
There's no preservatives, no MSG, fresh in, fresh out.
The pork comes in fresh, goes out fresh. There's never any freezing throughout the process. We've always used fine quality cuts. We're never gonna deter from that. It's one of the reasons why our sausage is so good. I guarantee you put our sausage up against anybody else's from a flavor standpoint, no one will beat it, hands down.
And do yourself a favor and do me a favor. Go buy a package of the New York style Italian sausage. Guaranteed you will love it. Guaranteed.
All right, we're coming down the home stretch on the Krug Show on this Wednesday night, and it was a pleasure visiting with Damon, and it always is. All right, let's go to the starred chats. Let's see what's been starred on the chats. Dub B Trey says, Krug, did your pops have a switch kit on the 64 Impala with the hydraulics? I know, seriously. I know that car. My dad used to be, I can remember, when we were growing up, that car became kind of like the lowrider car, the 64 Impala. And so literally anytime we'd be out, people would ask my dad, hey, can I buy that car off you? Hey, man, can I buy that car off you? I mean, all throughout the early 70s, people wanted to buy the 64 Impala for my dad because it was like, I don't know. I think it was because there was a lot of room under the hood for a bigger engine if you wanted to put in a bigger engine, and also because a lot of people really liked it as like a kind of a low rider car with the hydraulics and the bounce and the whole deal. Kyle McKiernan, I hate when Larry does this shit with Balky. I seriously have to clear my throat every time he does the impersonation. Come on, Kyle, why do you gotta be that way? AJ Jenkins was one hell of a receiver. Now, he couldn't catch a cold, but, man, he sure made me and Jim look like idiots. All right, there we go. MF says, Larry golfing with the Men's Warehouse person is legendary. I guarantee it. George Zimmer. Clarsard, 49. Drake Jackson is still a kid growing into his muscle. It's a good call. 95.7 Brian Iglesias says, this is for the hardcore 49er heads. I'm interested to see how Colton McKivitz will adjust to starting at right tackle. That's a good one. Absolutely. Jim Everett, the great. Larry willing to own the moment, Krueger. There you go. Taco Cruiser says, I remember listening to Larry on KMBR over 20 years ago. Best radio show ever. Wow. Terry Wayne, Larry is the truth. Fell in love with him on KMBR years ago. Appreciate that, Terry. The Car Gods, Larry, then why is ESPN NFL Spanish show saying that Brock will be ready for the start of the season and that Sam is doing way better in the offseason than Trey? I don't know who their source is, to be completely honest. Did we throw these up before? I'm not sure. I don't remember this one. Glass half full guy, what offseason moves would you guys make? I think they would trade Poole too, depending on the return. I hope they trade Poole. Hope they bring back Draymond. James Foster, if they trade Poole, do they have enough shooting? I don't know. That's the question. Do they have enough shooting? A Data 84. Remember when Larry bumped into Balky by the elevator? Me, John Lund, and Trent Balky in the elevator. And all I said to him was, how's it going? And then he just looked down at his shoes because the Niners were losing. It was like a minute left in the game. And then I'm like, you don't have to answer that. And Lund just started laughing. Lund thought that was the funniest fucking thing. John just starts laughing. He's like spitting out his water. We're like the three of us in the elevator, Balky with his hand in his pocket, looking down at his shoes. Me kind of feeling like an asshole for asking the question. John laughing at me for asking the question. Good memories. Dante Wiley, real San Francisco history. There you go. Telling us stories about the cable cars. Dusty Gold, Cumulus killed KGO and KMBR. It's hard to do. 2 for 2. Clarsard 49. Damon and Larry remind me of me and my buddy when we used to talk sports. We could talk for hours. Tim Donaghy's crew. Cumulus media stock down 78% in the past 5 years. Yeah, radio's dying. Luckily, I sold my shares. I'm really glad that I sold those shares. Got out when the getting was good. Okay, let's see. I guess MF says Danny had a trip back from Korea story on his NorCal Sports Network that was hilarious last night. I'll have to ask him about it. Let's see. What else do we got here? JJ said, does he still have the Impala? No, we sold it. Sold the Impala. Sold the Impala, 64 Impala. It was a great car. Rip Cougar Rebel, the great AJ Jenkins. Nick, did you ever run into Balky in an elevator? Oh, you knew that story, Nick. You knew that story. Look at this one. This ain't right. 916_49er. Krug was created in the back of a 64 Impala. That ain't right. How dare you disparage the reputations of my deceased parents. Mitchell and Ness, notice the trend when people making negative speculations about Lance. They're wrong. Mitchell and Ness, you know what? Let me just say this. You don't have to push back on everybody who's skeptical about Trey Lance. It's okay to be skeptical about Trey Lance. It doesn't mean that you hate him or that you root against him. He was drafted a few years ago now. It's a few years later. And at first people were all in. And now some people like myself are all in. But some people are like, you know what? I'm from Missouri. Show me. And that's where we're at. So don't get bent every time somebody is like, doesn't believe. Just look at it this way. If you really believe like I do that Trey eventually is going to be really good, you don't need to have the last word in a chat. You're going to have the last word, period. The irony of this is that I made such a high profile prediction on Trey being traded that now if Trey comes out and plays great, more people are going to remember that I predicted that he would be traded than I predicted that they should take him. And so I'm going to have all these people in my grill. Oh, well, I can deal with it. Walter Washington. Larry, what is your memories of Bill King? Sure, you have some. Oh, my God. Walter, I don't know if we have enough time, but I will say this because I do have to tell this brief story. Late 90s at the Coliseum, and I'm talking to Ken Korak, and I saw Bill King coming in, and I'm like, oh, it's Bill King. And I was probably 28, 29, and Ken said to me, he's like, Larry, do you know Bill? I said, no, but I used to listen to him on KMBR, do all the Warrior games when I was a little boy. I mean, I'm seriously 6th grade, 7th grade. I'm like sitting there doing my homework, listening to Bill King, call Warrior games. And Bill King, for those who don't know, was the greatest basketball announcer of all time, in my opinion. He was incredible. He was just incredible. He could keep up with the speed of it. He had enthusiasm for it. He had passion. He was awesome. Awesome basketball announcer. Good at baseball, good at football, awesome at basketball. So I said to Korak, no, I don't know Bill King. He's like, would you like me to introduce him to him? And I'm like, yeah, hell yes. So Bill sits down in the dugout. It's like 2:00 in the afternoon. Game doesn't start till 7:00. We're 5 hours before the game. And I'm sitting like, let's say 10 feet away. Korak sitting next to me, stands up. He goes, hey, Bill, how you doing? He's like, hey, Ken. And then he's like, hey, Bill, I'd like you to meet Larry Krueger. And before I even could stand up and come over, he goes, oh, I listen to him every night. And I was fucking floored. I seriously almost fell down in the dugout right then and there. And I'm just like, mouth gaping open. I'm just like, oh, my God. He's like, yeah. And then I thought he was bullshitting me. Okay. I really did. I thought he's just saying that for the hell of it to be polite. Lots of people say things just to be polite. And so we start talking and I'm like, Mr. King, he's like, Bill, call me Bill. And I'm like, Mr. King, he's like, I'm not going to say it again. Call me Bill. And I'm like, Bill? I go, that just seems so weird. And he's like, I prefer it. And I said, okay. We start talking. And I start telling, like, I'm a huge fan. I go, big fan of your work. As a fifth grader, fourth, fifth, sixth grader, I used to listen to all these Warrior games while I was doing my homework and listen to you. And just so many nights I fell asleep to the Warrior game on the transistor, listening to you call the game. Mom or dad would come in middle of the night, turn off the radio, and he just couldn't have been nicer. And then I said, would you be willing to do an interview with me? I would love to do an interview with you. And we sat there and we talked. And as we're talking about, the Holy Roller and just all these incredible moments, Raiders, Warriors, 75 series, all these different things, I noticed I got like 7 or 8 people who are now like standing there looking at us like we were holding court. I mean, they weren't looking at me, they were looking at Bill, but they were all listening to this interview because it was like a Northern California sport. It was like an incredible sports show, like, but about with somebody who was like a huge person in history. And, so we talked for like 20, 25 minutes. And then I'm getting ready to sign off. And I'm like, Bill, thank you so much for joining me. And I this is absolutely a thrill of mine. I can't believe that I've had this opportunity to do this interview with you. And he's like, well, you sure gave me more time than you gave Salty last night. And he was referencing a caller on the show. And we hadn't talked about that since the beginning of the interview when he said, hey, I listen to you every night. And it was proof. So like right then I was even floored because I thought he was kind of BSing me. And when he said, hey, you sure were short with Salty last night, I had like proof that he was a listener to my show. And I just was absolutely floored. And we just became friends. And I would see him at the A's games and go over there and, hey, how you doing, Larry? How's life? How's this? How's that? And this is before I was ever married, before I had any kids. Oh, yeah, you cracked me up last night when you hung up on that guy from San Lorenzo. I mean, and this is how our dialogue went in the late 1990s. Me and Bill, and I did the nighttime show, and I lived, in the East Bay. So I'd come over, sitting in the Coliseum in the dugout for, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, talk to some players, then go back, do the show from 7 to 10, go home. And then I'd go back the next day and Bill would be there. Hey, I mean, you were cracking me up last night. And, it was just amazing. Just amazing. So yeah, my memories of Bill King were that he was an amazing broadcaster, a sweetheart of a guy, and he had the same passion for Bay Area sports that you and I have, that we all had. So he was one of us. It was unfreaking believable getting to know him. It was unbelievable getting to interview him. It was amazing. Amazing. I've had some incredible moments in my broadcast career. Bill King, Lon Simmons, John Miller, Ted Robinson, Tim Roy, just so many great announcers. So many and so many moments that just really stand out. At some point, I got to do a book. At some point. I don't know when, I don't know how, but at some point I got to do a book. As you guys know, I've already told you so many stories that people are like, hey, give me this story. Hey, give me that story. They would all be an incredible chapter in this book. Dusty Gold. That's okay, Krug. You predicted Brock. Well, I guess I did, but I didn't like the pick when they made it, but I eventually warmed to it. And I just happened to be a little bit early on the Brock train than some of you. Rip Cougar Rebel, R.I.P. Bill King. Holy Toledo. G. Martinez's story time with Larry's the best. Yeah. Dusty Gold, Holy Toledo. John says, Bill King, just incredible. Chardal. Hey, Larry, how you doing? I'm doing great, Chardal. Thanks for asking, man. Appreciate you. Dusty Gold says, waxed mustache. Bill was great on the 75 Warriors NBA championship win call. Yeah. All I got to say is Bill was incredible. Incredible guy. and had such passion for the game, such passion for Bay Area sports. Brian Iglesias, a great story, reminds me of the first lessons I learned when I was at the game. You never know who is listening. Exactly. Sometimes people, you almost need to you need to remind yourself that, and seriously, from that point on, who I thought of when I all those early shows when I was at KMBR in like 97, 98, I'm only 27, 28 years old. I thought of a couple people. One was my 96-year-old grandmother, Benedetta, who she would be like, I listened to you last night, Larry. And I'd be like, great. And I'm thinking to myself, I think I got pissed. I think I may have said some bad things. I don't know. I mean, it's radio. You can't swear. But I'm like, what'd you think of it, Grandma? And she'd be like, your diction was absolutely beautiful. You have wonderful diction. So I'm like, well, what about what I was saying? She'd be like, I don't know, but your diction was incredible diction. Always made me laugh. And then I would think of guys like Reggie Jackson or Bill King, famous people who were big stars who told me at one point, man, I listen to you all the time. Later in my career, DC, Dwight Clark, once DC told me that he was a regular on Sports Phone and I was one of his favorites on KMBR, it was like, oh my God, Dwight Clark could be listening. And I always thought of it. Anytime I went to talk about anything, I'd be like, Dwight Clark could be listening. Dwight Clark could be listening. Brian Iglesias. Oh, yeah, there we go. Someone says, who's Balti? That's Salty Balti. And Salty Balti was a caller. Sadly, he's no longer with us. But yeah, Salty was a great, passionate Giants fan and Niner fan. And sometimes I would have to run him because he was so negative. He was so incredibly negative. I'm the one who his name was Dave, Baltimore Dave. He went by Baltimore Dave, but he was so angry all the time that I'm like, hey, can I go? I'm going to call you Salty Balti. And he's like, I love it. And it stuck. I mean, it literally stuck. And then literally I'm the one who gave him Salty Balti. He was Baltimore Dave from Millbrae, I think. And I called him Salty Balti, and unbelievable. He was salty. He was so salty. Digital Drew, man, this is gold, Larry. This is the kind of stuff that needs to be broken out into a standalone video. Bill King was amazing, and that story is perfection. Yeah, Bill was amazing. Bill was amazing. Thank you, Larry. Bill King is still my best sports announcer I've ever heard, especially in the Bay Area. Chardal says you should have a call-in show. Yeah, we could do some call-ins. Daniel says, Salty speaking to Tolbert, Tom, are you on drugs? I do remember that too. And this was another one. Let me talk to Sabian. I want to talk to Sabian. And then I met Salty at Giants Fan Fest, and he was like a totally normal guy with a wife and a kid. And I was like, Salty, why couldn't you just be a freak show? You got to be like a normal guy with a wife and a kid who's like totally normal and regular. And he's like, yeah, I just get passionate. I'm like, yeah, brother, you're awesome. Mindspringer's looking forward to your Jordan Poole interview. Yeah. Jordan, I wanted you out of here, but you're still here. Your thoughts? Robert Gamez, Larry, how would Alex Smith do in Kyle's system? Alex Smith would take care of the football. That's for sure. But he didn't take too many chances. That's for sure. He needed to take more chances. Dusty Gold, thanks for your dad's stories. Oh man. I'm who doesn't love their dad, right? Who doesn't love their dad? Walter Washington. Wow, Larry, exactly the person that I've been wanting to meet. Looks like it's Larry. Well, we got this one from Michael Michio. Beautiful story, Larry. You're one of the good ones, and that itself puts you on Mount Rushmore of KMBR personalities. I don't know about that. Pete Franklin came in when I was filling in for Radnich one of the very first days, and he's like, came in during a commercial break, and this is the guy that I really, really admired, Pete Franklin. And I'm like, how you doing, Mr. Franklin? He's like, Pete, call me Pete. I'm like, what's up, Pete? He's like, you're sounding great, kid. You're sounding great. I'm out there in the bullpen, and you're sounding great. And I don't know if I was sounding great, but he said it. and it had a huge impact on me. Absolutely huge impact. Walter says, Larry, who's listening to your show? I don't know. Who's listening? I'm not really sure. Right now, hopefully you're listening. Digital Drew, your diction is wonderful, Larry, and you're fucking lazy. Yeah, that's a Graham Benedetta you say. Oh, your diction. Kyle McKiernan says Salty passed away. Yes, he did. About 6 years ago, he says. I thought it was less, but time flies. Great guy, though. Great guy. Loved Salty. I loved his passion. Let me talk to Sabian. You guys are too easy on him. Like, Salty, you really think I'm easy on him? He's like, no, Krug, you're real. he would always give me like a little bit more credit than, but some of the other guys, Ralph doesn't ask him any tough questions. I'm like, all right. As long as it's just Ralph, not me. All right. What else? We got this one. Eddie, Jordan Poole. Hey, Larry, as long as you ship me off with the baddies, I don't give a fuck if you're out of here or not. Okay. This is interesting. Nick says, can you speak upon any impact on your career Gary gave you, if any? Oh, my God. I could talk for hours about G-Rad. Are you kidding me? Well, first of all, I love Gary. The years I worked with Gary were easily the best years of my life as far as a broadcaster. I never, ever wanted to not work with him. And I learned a lot. Gary loves his family and put them first, second, third, fourth. He was all about his family. And I could relate to that because I'm all about my family. So, and as far as I learned a lot about Gary treated everybody great. We'd go to, Moscone Center, the car show. We'd be there. Every single person that came up to him, he would give time to. Every single person that would meet us on the way from the lot to the station, he would stop and take time with. Every single person who stood there and asked him questions about anything, he'd take time with. He was great with people. He was incredible with people. He shined nobody. He treated everybody incredibly. And that's what I learned from him. Treat everybody great. You treat everybody great, you never have to wonder if there's somebody out there who thinks you're a jerk. There's still going to be people out there that think you're a jerk, but at least you know that you treated everybody as good as you could. And I admire that a lot about Gary. And, we talked about, the passing of our parents. He was just my parents were still alive when I did the show with him. His father had passed, his mother passed while we were doing the show together. And he was so much a family guy. And he just and he lived by codes. That's the one thing about Gary. He lived by a code, it's like, and he believed in it. He believed in he had a lot of rules. I mean, I used to joke him about his rules. He used to have rules about, if you're over 40, you can't wear a jersey. If you're over a certain age, get off the court and let the kids play. He had a lot of philosophies, but I learned so much. Treated everybody exceptionally well. He cared about his children and wife like they were first, second, third. He's not one of these guys that couldn't see the forest through the trees. Just awesome. Just an awesome guy. Made me laugh. Trusted me. We had a great trust. We had a great rhythm. And he made me laugh. We had a lot of fun. And I never learned more from anybody than I learned from him. He was a great showman. He was great with callers. He loved to interact with people during the show to almost to a fault. I mean, he would call up people in the middle of the show who were going to bomb. We were on the patio and he'd be like, somebody would come over and they'd be like, want to talk on the mic. And instead of just being, dude, get the hell out of here. We're doing a radio show. Be like, sit down. But Gary, that guy sucks and he's boring and he's going to drive away the audience. That's all right. Hey, we'll get rid of him eventually. Sit down. He was just so good. So good. And we just had so much fun. So much fun. Digital Drew. Kevin, the bodyguard, would often say the same thing about Gary. Family first and a class act. Always gave his time to fans. Yeah. This guy cared. Everybody cares about their family, but this guy, he had his priorities right. He had a bunch of sayings though. Like he didn't think like if you wore a hat, he'd be like, "What are you hiding?" And I think that he got that from his dad. But just so many great stories. So many great memories of G-Rad. Walter Washington. Hey Larry, not to try to kiss your you know what, but you would be a cool professor as a sports analyst at a school. Oh, that's interesting. Maybe I'll do that someday. John Boytnot, as an overnight part-timer at Cron, I can confirm Gary said hi and took an interest in everyone, even me. So nice. Yeah. That's G-Rad right there. We got this one from Dusty Gold. Gary's a South native. He's South Bay, I think he meant. He's his high school basketball star and UNLV stories. I think it's Chardal. Top 5 romantic comedies, Larry. I don't fucking know. Romantic comedies. Brian Iglesia. If you're over 40, you can't get a player's autograph. Yep. That was one of them. We had so many funny ones. One of them was I bet Texas against Michigan in the first round of the NCAA tournament, and we were watching it on the air. And I was up. I think it was -4, and Texas was up like it was -4. I think they were up 5. Anyway, Michigan gets the ball driving down. He's like, "Oh, you got this, man. It's done." And I'm like, "Shut up. It's not done." He's like, "No, you got this. It's done." And the guy drives the length of the court, lays it in. And I'm like, ah! I start screaming. He's like, "What happened?" I'm like, "What happened is I didn't cover and you freaking jinxed me." And he's like, I didn't mean to. And you just hear me go bananas. And then I slam the studio doors shut. Oh, classic moment. Absolutely classic moment. Rip Cougar Rebel says, when you worked with Gary is when I first heard you, Larry. Been a fan ever since. Thank you, brother. Appreciate you. Clarsart. When I'm 40, I still want your autograph, Larry. So Safi Hasib says, Larry, shout out to you for your Colton Welker call out in the off season. He's absolutely raking down in Sacramento. The kid can hit. Yeah, that guy can hit. Doubles machine. Colton Welker absolutely can hit. See, Farhan knows Farhan makes some good moves. They're just kind of under the radar. Daniel Shabazz, that was before everybody wore a ball cap. Dusty Gold, the Gout Man was Gary's friend and on the KMBR show. Oh yeah, Johnny and I, Facebook friends. Always check in with Johnny. I love Johnny. Kyle says, you guys put me on a live mic twice. I missed that. It was probably not a good idea. No, I'm just joking. Nick, thank you for giving these stories about him, Larry. Oh yeah. Terradome in the house. What's up, Terradome? He says, what's up, Larry Krug? You've been on GOAT status all day, my man. Outstanding. Ashley Keating says 50 first dates is the best. I'll say this. I saw PT I love you or something like that, or PS I love you. Goddamn train wreck. I was like, please, honey, make it end. Make it stop. Mind Spring. What about Scott Farrell, Larry? Oh my God, we could tell Farrell stories. Me and Farrell partying in New Orleans at the NAB, 1994. Great, incredible. Scotty, give me pour me a cold one. Yeah, blah, 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 blah. Scott Farrell. Now, there was a guy. That guy was really something else. Brian Iglesias says, my favorite Garyism, nobody cares. Nobody cares. Gary used to say that all the time. Or Kresha Fishing says, what kind of car are you driving, punk? Oh, yeah. That was awesome. Kyle McKiernan. Larry set down the headset and walked out of the studio. You could hear it. Well, I threw the headset down after I lost that bet. I was dropping all kinds of F-bombs in the hallway. People were looking at me like, dude, what happened in there? I'm like, you don't want to know. I'm pissed at G-Rad. They're like, oh, man, what happened? Like, he jinxed my Texas bet. Eddie K. Any way you can get the great Kate T. Scott on the Krug show, Larry? Oh, I've had her on. I've already had her on before. Yeah, we can get her back. Oh, are you kidding me? I love Kate. Kate's doing a great job in Philly. It's a tough town to break into, and she's done it. Nick said, did Scotty Farrell come to KMBR for a minute? Oh, yeah, he was on KMBR. The great DC was his producer. And they had a big party through Westwood One at Pat O'Brien's in the quarter during the 94 NAB in New Orleans. And I got up there, and a couple of the people I was with couldn't get up. And it was like one of these, invite only deals. We were on this riser hanging above the crowd. Yeah, I mean, DC and Scotty Farrell. I mean, that's going way, way back, way back. Good memories, though. Daniel Shabazz. Oh, wow. Krug and Scotty Farrell partying in 94. Classic. Oh, Scotty. Scotty was incredible. Scotty, I mean, he had his own thing, Pour me a cold one. Scotty was incredible. Carlo P. Both of you shut up. Oh, man. All right. That's going to do it. That's going to do it for us. Last one here. Michael Michio. Nobody cares. G-Rad's final send-off on KMBR. I still get choked up here in his final sign-off. Nobody cares. Yeah, G-Rad. We'll try to get G-Rad. We'll try to get G-Rad because I know what it would mean to all you guys. And I know that he would love it as well. So we'll try to get him in here because he is phenomenal. He's a Bay Area institution. Daniel Shabazz. Pour me a cold one, Krug. Scotty. Blah 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 blah. That was the noise of the beer being poured. All right, that's going to do it for us. Let's check the scoreboard. Let's see where we're at. We passed 18,000 subs yesterday. We are today. Where are we at? We are at, let's see, looks like 18,030. So we picked up 30. 18,030. So if you haven't hit like or subscribe, please hit like and subscribe. Digital Druce is 18,000. Congrats. Appreciate you. This is another funny one. Another Gary philosophy. Raise your voice and yell every 3 or 4 callers. That was Gary's belief. It's like people are only casually listening. You have to sometimes raise your voice. You know who did that the best was Pete Franklin. In the middle of the show, he'd be like, "Up yours, Dallas!" Pete was incredible. Walter Washington. Thank you, Larry. What a night. Yep, it's been a great show. Been a great show, if I say so myself. Tomorrow, let me just double check what is on the show tomorrow because we got a lot going on the rest of the week. Okay, so tomorrow is Thursday. I'm going to have the great Vish Kumaran on tomorrow at 3 o'clock Pacific. So we'll talk a little Niners tomorrow at 3 with Vish. Damon and I are getting together for cocktails with our wives tomorrow night. Also on Friday, Jack Hammer is going to stop by the Krug show at 11 a.m. Friday morning. And then we hope to catch up with Jack Coletto of the 49ers on Saturday. I'm looking forward to that too. Jack trying to make the roster. Minicamp starts next week. Looking forward to chopping it up with Jack and talking some ball with him. Val Ramos says, great show like always. Dusty Gold said, you pushed the envelope today, Larry. Thank you. And Chardal says, great show as always. Larry, he dropped this? Larry, you're a chill dude. You're a chill dude. Thank you. And who doesn't want to be a chill dude? And then Safi says, Larry, Kyle Haynes never gets any criticism. The Giants player development under his reign has been very underwhelming. They brought in the Astros guy, Pete Petulia, this year. And look at all the minors. Look at all the minors promos. Yeah, but you got to remember this. Pete didn't have a hand in any of that. That was all Kyle. Just takes a little while. Takes a little while to get things rolling. I think Kyle Haynes is actually pretty sharp guy. Kyle was there with Sabes. He was a previous regime guy. I like Kyle. I really do. I like Kyle a lot. Chris Hansen says, do a drunk show tomorrow. Dusty Gold. High five, Larry. Krueger's king. Clarsard. Krueger's king. Look at that. If you'd put Krueger's hell on earth, I wouldn't have printed it. I wouldn't have said it. All right, guys, have a great night. Catch you tomorrow. Thanks for subbing to the Krug Show. Hit like and subscribe to everybody, and we will see you next time on the Krug Show. Peace.
Yeah, never met a man I've been scared of. Careful, you gon' get exactly what you asked for. Here for whatever you bring me, getting handled. I answer to no one, I don't need to hassle. Yeah.